Chapter 761. Although they didn't communicate with each other, Lin Feng, Liang Pan, and Shi Yu had a tacit understanding with each other. They limited the cultivators who went to Yingzhou Spirit Mountain to the third level of the Essence Soul Realm. Xianmen Tianzong didn't have any Essence Soul Realm cultivators, but Zhu Yi defeated Xiao Qingqing, who was in the first level of the Essence Soul Realm, in the late stage of the Yuanying. Apart from Dao Master Chang'e, there was another expert in the second level of the Essence Soul Realm in the Great Qin Dynasty's camp. He was Emperor Qin Shi Yu's younger brother, Shi Lin. King Jingfang of the Great Qin Dynasty was a pillar of the royal family like King Anliang Shi Zongyu. King Jingfang Shi Lin leaped down from the immortal Dragon City and led the team into the ancient formation outside Yingzhou Spirit Mountain with Dao Master Chang'e. On the other hand, on the side of the Great Zhou Dynasty, there was a monk who looked like a middle-aged man surrounded by Buddhist light. Everyone could tell that he was a direct disciple of Buddhism. Not only was he proficient in the Tao, but he also had deep attainments in the Buddhist Dharma. As soon as he appeared, Shi Lin, Dao Master Chang'e, and even Sword Venerable Tidehark had a complicated expression on their faces. Dakong, the middle-aged monk, smiled. "It's been a while, benefactors." He didn't say anything else. He came to Sword Venerable Tidehark and put his palms together. Then, he led the people of the Great Zhou Dynasty and Songhai Sword sect down to Yingzhou Spirit Mountain. Apart from the cultivators of other forces, even Sword Venerable Tidehark and those in his own force who had heard of him looked at him with a complicated expression. Lin Feng glanced at Monk Dakong, then shifted his gaze to the Grand Imperial Palace. He couldn't help but smile. He thought to himself, "You've even sent this person. The Great Zhou Dynasty has really turned out in full force this time." Monk Dakong was of the same generation as Monk Dade. However, he joined the sect later than Monk Dade, but his cultivation was higher than Monk Dade's. He was also a rising star that the Great Lane Temple focused on. When he first joined the sect, he was accepted as a personal disciple by the previous elder of the Great Lane Temple. After he cultivated the Rulai Dharma body and reached the second level of the Buddhist Golden Body, he became the head of the Bodhi court and became a high-level member of the Great Lane Temple. However, after the Buddha vanquishing battle, Monk De Kong joined the Great Zhou Dynasty. Although this was a secret and the cultivators with low cultivation did not know about it, it was not a secret among the primordial spirit powerhouses. However, De Kong had been living in seclusion and had not appeared in front of anyone since the Buddha vanquishing battle. Lin Feng also knows that this monk with a face full of peace and tranquility, who has seen his heart and nature, is a key figure in the battle to destroy the Buddha. The key to the destruction of the Great Thunder Monastery back then was the Void Temple's silence. They even used the Great Formation Breaking Drum to help the Allied forces destroy the Great Thunder Monastery's Vairocana formation, which was equivalent to expressing their attitude. The Taons. The Taoff the other forces would that Taishu Tang Wu sect Mu had not done. According to what Lin Feng knew, Monk Dakong wasn't a spy planted by the Great Zhou Dynasty or other forces in the Great Lane Temple. However, he could still live well in the Great Zhou Dynasty after the battle. Obviously, it wasn't as simple as him joining the Great Zhou Dynasty. It seemed that this person knew some secrets of the Great Lane Temple and revealed it to the Taishu Tang. That was why Taishu Tang acquiesced to the battle of Buddhism. Lin Feng observed Monk Dakong carefully. He could feel that he was at ease. He didn't feel guilty for betraying his sect and joining the enemy. It was as if the battle of Buddhism was a matter of course to him. Since he wasn't a spy planted by the Great Zhou Dynasty, Taishu Tang, or other forces in the Great Lane Temple, it meant that he didn't have other thoughts about Buddhism. Under such circumstances, he supported the battle of Buddhism. It seemed to have a deep meaning. Maybe, in his eyes, what he did wasn't to exterminate Buddhism, but to exterminate the other disciples of Buddhism who had deviated from the right path of Buddhism in his heart and fell into the evil path? Lin Feng quietly pondered in his heart, having some vague thoughts. Just like how the Void Temple is divided into conservatives and radicals, back then the Great Thunder Temple also didn't seem to be a monolithic block internally. Towards the understanding of Buddhism and the direction of their own sect, there were quite a few divergences. Lin Feng thought for a while and shook his head with a smile. The system notification sound kept ringing in his ears. He looked back and forth between the Taishu Palace and Monk Dakong. He then sent a message to Zhu Yi and the others who were about to enter the formation. Little E, pay attention to the monk who is leading the great Zhou dynasty. After listening to Lin Feng's explanation of Monk Dakong's situation, Zhu Yi's eyes flickered. If we can capture this person, we might be able to find out the true story of the battle of Buddhism. However, his primordial soul's second return to emptiness state cultivation base. I can't do anything to him without becoming a primordial soul. Lin Feng smiled. It's okay. I have a basic idea about the battle of Buddhism. You don't have to fight to the death with him. You should pay attention to him. I'm afraid he has a lot of Sariras with him. Oh. Zhu Yi nodded. I understand. All these years, the few of them traveled outside and found some scattered Sariras. However, compared to the total number, it was not even 1/10 of the total. At that time, Lin Feng deduced that after Great Thunderclap Monastery was wiped out, most of the Sariras had fallen into the hands of Great Zhou Empire. After meeting Grand Imperial Palace and Monk Dakong, the system's notifications rang out non-stop beside Lin Feng's ears, which verified this point. There was definitely a large amount of Sariras in Grand Imperial Palace. Now that Grand Imperial Palace had been restored, it wasn't far from its peak. Other than Yudu Minghua, Great Zhou Empire had also invested a large amount of resources, which should include large amounts of Buddhist treasures and Sariras. And this monk Dakong also had Sariras on him. You are an interesting monk. Since you are on the righteous path of Buddhism, you don't have any reverence for the Sariras of the predecessors. You don't mind that Great Zhou Empire used the Sariras to refine magic treasures, and you don't have any psychological barrier when you use them yourself. It wasn't like Lin Feng hadn't seen Buddhist cultivators who had refined the Sariras of their ancestors into magic treasures. However, no matter if it was Hui Ku or Yuan Xiang, even though they had refined the Sariras, they were still suffering in their hearts. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Your Dharma name is Dakong. Could it be that you have already reached the realm of seeing emptiness as emptiness and having no dust as a mirror? Even many almighty experts of Buddhism who had reached the third tier of the golden body realm might not be able to do it. If that's really the case, you aren't far from the realm of Buddha's non-leaving golden body statue. The people who had followed Lin Feng all the way to Yingzhou Celestial Mountain, Songhai Sword Sect had followed Great Zhou Empire into the ancient formation. Great Qin Empire's Dao Venerable Chong Lu, Shi Xingyun, and the rest had also followed King Jingfang Shi Lin. As for the demon race, Great Sage Devouring Sun and his golden-winged rock demon race, as well as the dragon race led by Crimson Thunder Dragon King, they had retreated and escaped far away. With the three great treasures of Jade Capital Mountain, Immortal Dragon City, and Grand Imperial Palace pressing down on them, if they didn't know their place and headed to Yingzhou Celestial Mountain, they would probably be crushed into powder immediately. Be it due to the conflict between the human race and the demon race, or the consideration of reducing competitors, Lin Feng, Stonefeather, and Liang Pan didn't mind cooperating with the demon race under the premise of being wary of each other. Once such a lineup joined forces, even if Great Sage Golden Rock and Dragon King of the Purple Sea came together, they would have to shrink back, let alone Great Sage Devouring Sun and Crimson Thunder Dragon King. Crimson Thunder Dragon King stared expressionlessly at Grand Imperial Palace and Immortal Dragon City. These two creation Dharma treasures of human race cultivators, no matter which one it was, had a deep-seated hatred with the dragon race. In the primordial era, the primordial celestial dragon race was the ruler of the world. Not to mention the human race, even the other demon races prostrated themselves under the dragon race's rule. At that time, the demon race's sacred emperor was the leader of the primordial celestial dragon race, primordial dragon Xianshang, also known as the absolute primordial dragon. Hence, Xianshang was also known as the absolute emperor. Primordial dragon Xianshang and his wife, ancestral dragon Songning, gave birth to the primordial celestial dragon race together, becoming the ancestor of the dragon race. Later on, the human race rose to power, and the first human emperor, Emperor Shi Huang, led the human race's experts to rebel against the demon race's rule. At the very beginning of the rebellion, other demon races that were dissatisfied with the dragon race's rule secretly helped them, giving the human race the opportunity to develop and get through the earliest and most difficult times. In the end, in a great battle, ancestral dragon Songning was surrounded and killed. Emperor Shi Huang used Songning's remains as raw material, fusing the human race's power concept of unity and protection into a creation Dharma treasure. This was the origin of the name Immortal Dragon City. Unfortunately, before the Dharma treasure was refined, Emperor Shi Huang was killed by the furious primordial dragon Xianshang. However, the tide of the human race's rise was already unstoppable. One after another, human experts stood up, one after another, until the final battle of the primordial era. The heaven primordial world was split into two worlds, the divine land and the infinite wasteland vast land. The primordial era came to an end. After entering the primordial era, the Taishu Taoist activated the Haotian mirror, and the Grand Emperor controlled the Grand Imperial Palace to kill absolute sovereign Xianshang and a large number of dragon experts, completely ending the dragon race's rule. Although the dragon race still dominated one of the heaven primordial seven seas, the Black Sea, and was the strongest faction among the demon race, compared to when they ruled the heavens and all races submitted to them, the difference was like heaven and earth. Therefore, at this moment, the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King even closed his eyes. Otherwise, he might not be able to control his emotions. To the dragon race, the immortal dragon city and the Grand Imperial Palace, the former was a great humiliation, while the latter was a blood feud. Seeing the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King leave, Lin Feng frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, he let his iron tree clone follow. As for his main body, most of his attention was on the Grand Imperial Palace and the Immortal Dragon City. Treasures of creation were the same as Mahayana-grade treasures. They could unleash their own great power independently, but compared to Mahayana-grade treasures, the spirit of a treasure of creation was much larger. It was almost the will of the world, and it was basically connected to the great Tao of creation of the entire heaven primordial world. Instead, it would not show itself, and most of the time, it would not move freely. It was like a complete and real world that stood there silently. It would not be as active as humans or animals. As long as one could obtain the recognition of a treasure of creation, a cultivator with a lower cultivation realm could also activate the great power of the treasure of creation. However, the difference in cultivation realm would cause the treasure's feedback to be different. It was just like how an early-stage golden elixir cultivator could only use their own magic power, while an intermediate-stage golden elixir cultivator could directly absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Different cultivation realms meant different understandings of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Naturally, the feedback from the great Tao of heaven and earth would also be different. Therefore, after Emperor Zhou Liangpan successfully fused with the Tao and activated the Grand Imperial Palace, which had mostly recovered, Stonefeather could not do anything to it even if he controlled the Immortal Dragon City. If Liangpan was still at the Return to Void stage, he would not be afraid of the Immortal Dragon City even if he controlled the Grand Imperial Palace, but he might not be able to suppress the Immortal Dragon City like before. In that case, after observing Liang Pan and the Grand Imperial Palace, Lin Feng had a deeper understanding of treasures of creation. He made up his mind. I don't need to change my previous plan. I'll just go with the original plan for now. Chapter 762. Liang Pan and Stonefeather noticed that Lin Feng's Iron Tree clone had secretly left to follow the Crimson Thunder Dragon King. However, they did not pay much attention to it. Most of their attention was on Lin Feng's main body and Jade Capital Mountain. Apart from that, they also separated a portion of their divine senses to secretly pay attention to Lin Feng's Iron Tree clone, in case something unexpected happened. However, Lin Feng had already made arrangements for this. The Iron Tree clone was indeed following the Crimson Thunder Dragon King on the surface, because Lin Feng vaguely felt that something was wrong with the other party. However, there was another purpose in the dark. It was to attract Liang Pan and Stonefeather's attention, so that they could secretly sneak in. Magical talismans gathered together and wrapped around a figure, as well as the world-breaking stone and the heavenly turtle golden pearl. Then, the figure turned into an inconspicuous dim spot of light. While Liang Pan and Stonefeather were slightly distracted by the Iron Tree clone, the figure quietly descended Jade Jing Mountain. The talismans formed a mysterious array. Under the cover, even Liang Pan and Stonefeather did not discover it. The plan of deceiving the heavens was a preliminary success. Lin Feng smiled inwardly. That's why I have to focus on mastering the new Dharma technique. That's why I rushed to Yingxi. As the old saying goes, sharpening the axe will not delay the work of cutting firewood. If Liang Pan and Stonefeather were fully focused and merged with their creation treasures, it would be hard to say whether they would discover it or not. However, now that they were slightly distracted, the speck of light that was like a speck of dust had already disappeared among the clouds of Yingxi. Although they could not really find any traces, Liang Pan and Stonefeather's hearts skipped a beat at the same time. Their instincts told them that the situation seemed to be developing in a direction that was disadvantageous to them. However, the Tao of space-time, causality, and fate was shrouded in fog. They could not see clearly with their cultivation. They only felt that something was wrong, but the source of this feeling was not easy to identify. For Stonefeather, it could be from Liang Pan, Lin Feng, or someone else who had entered Yingxi. For Liang Pan, it was the same situation. However, compared to Lin Feng's confident appearance, Liang Pan and Stonefeather were more inclined to believe that the problem lay with Lin Feng. What did he do? Liang Pan frowned slightly. His mind connected with his doppelganger on the faraway Fangzhong Immortal Mountain. He continued to search for Penglai Immortal Mountain while keeping his guard up. After Zhu Hongwu, who was also on Mount Fangzhong, heard Liang Pan's clone's report of the situation, his brows also twitched. He said in a low voice, "Your Majesty, you suddenly felt something. It shouldn't be a coincidence." Liang nodded and said, "We have to find Mount Penglai, but we can't be impatient. We can slow down. It doesn't matter even if we wait until the next time the three mountains appear. As long as the great Zhou dynasty occupies Mount Fangzhong, we will always have an advantageous position in the Battle of Yingxi. If we find Mount Penglai, Hongwu, you will be in charge of collecting it. My clone will drive Mount Fangzhong and be on guard in case of any unexpected situations." Zhu Hongwu replied, "Subject obeys the imperial decree." After arranging the matters of Mount Penglai and Mount Fangzhong, Liang Pan focused his attention back on Lin Feng and Stonefeather. At the same time, he paid attention to the situation of Mount Penglai below. Zhu Yi Li Yuanfang, Monk De Kong, King Jingfang of the Great Qin, Wang Shilin, and the others had already officially entered the ancient formation of the Immortal Mountain. When they landed on the huge jade boards, Zhu Yi and the others immediately felt the scene in front of them change slightly. It was as if they were immersed in water. The waves swayed and most importantly, they couldn't hear any sound. Everything in front of them turned into a mixture of black and white. Everything had lost its color. Fortunately, their divine senses could still be transmitted, and magic power transmission was also not affected. After carefully analyzing the mysteries of the formation, Zhu Yi took out the Li Qing jade set. Senior Qing, you entered this formation with Tao Master Jin Luan before. Now that we want to break the formation, we also need your experience. The Li Qing jade set emitted spiritual power fluctuations and turned into a voice that rang in the ears of Zhu Yi, Li Yuanfang, and the others. This formation was born of heaven and earth, and is accompanied by Mount Ingzhou. The human cultivation world of the Divine Land generally refers to it as the nameless ancient formation. This formation is now extremely weak. It can only deprive me of color and sound. When I entered the formation with Tao Master Jin Luan, my 5 senses, including sight, touch, and hearing, were all deprived. Only my subconscious can still move, and my divine sense can still operate and explore. The Li Qing jade set had now been refined by Lin Feng. It regarded Lin Feng as its master, and called its former master by the honorific title of Tao Master Jin Luan, just like Zhu Yi and the others. But even so, my divine sense has been severely weakened, and the range it can extend is extremely limited. Qing continued, this formation is even fused with the layers of illusions of the Ying Sea. When our perception is severely damaged, it is very easy for us to fall into the illusions. Tao Master Jin Luan fell into the illusions because of this and died. Zhu Yi and the others nodded. After the exploration of generations of experts, the nameless ancient formation at the periphery of Mount Ingzhou had become famous. It was rumored that in ancient times, when the 3 mountains of Yingxi had just appeared, the power of the nameless ancient formation was at its peak. It could even deprive a cultivator of their divine sense and consciousness. Once a cultivator entered the ancient formation, they would immediately be unable to think, speak, think, or move. It was as if they had entered a state of suspended animation. In a situation where there were many other dangers, such suspended animation was no different from real death, and they would soon lose their lives. Later on, the Grand Emperor had attacked the nameless ancient formation and heavily injured it, greatly weakening the ancient formation. Only then did the people who entered the formation not have their consciousness deprived. Only if their consciousness was not deprived could they have other follow-up methods to study how to break the formation. As a result, the people who entered the formation continued to attack it, causing the nameless ancient formation to become weaker and weaker. Qing continued, based on my previous experience of entering the formation with Tao Master Jin Luan and being trapped in the formation, only to be able to escape because someone else tried to break the formation, the method of breaking this nameless ancient formation is different from breaking ordinary formations. The formation's eye is the immortal mountain of Ingzhou that is surrounded by the formation. If you can't break the formation, you won't be able to touch the mountain at all, so it's useless to find the formation's eye. The materials used to set up the formation are not fixed, but the layers of illusions in this Ying Sea. When Li Yuanfang heard this, his eyes flickered slightly. To break this formation, you can either destroy it from the outside with absolute strength like what the Grand Emperor Palace did earlier, or you can use the most ancient method to break the formation, which is to analyze the formation's patterns. A long time ago, when the Tao techniques of the human race and the demon race were still in the ascendant, there were already array formations. However, these array formations were not deduced by cultivators or great demons according to their own cultivation method. Instead, they were created after analyzing the natural array formations like the nameless ancient array formation in Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. It was just like how the most primitive humans would sometimes imitate animals and carry out bionics. The birth and development of formations had also gone through such a process in the earliest days. After analyzing natural ancient formations and sorting out the principles of heaven and earth contained within, they would integrate and perfect the cultivator's own Tao technique, and then simulate it. After that, be it the human race or the demon race, with the development of time, the Tao techniques they grasped became more and more prosperous and profound. Only then did they completely break away from the shadow of imitating natural ancient formations. Instead, they could use their own Tao technique as a foundation to deduce brand new formations and use the tremendous power of heaven and earth as they wished. Qing gave a definite answer. That's right. If you want to completely break this ancient formation, you need to completely analyze the formation's patterns. He pointed at Zhu Yi, Li Yuanfang, and the others and said, "According to my experience, this ancient formation is actually not a ball, but a giant loop. It only became what it is now because of the distortion of space." Zhu Yi turned to look at Li Yuanfang. "Sixth junior brother, what do you think?" Li Yuanfang was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, he squinted his eyes and studied the formation. After a careful calculation in his mind, he answered, "Second senior brother, we can split up and meet again at the end. We can consolidate our gains and summarize them. It'll be faster this way." "That's what I think too." Zhu Yi nodded. "This formation distorts space. Even if we split up and meet each other in a semicircle, we won't have to worry about running into the cultivators of other forces. It's just like Master's purple chi maze. The people who enter the ancient formation in stages will be in overlapping yet independent space planes. If we don't break the formation, Monk Great Void and King Jingfang won't be able to break through the distortion of space and time to meet us. In this way, even if we split up, your safety will be guaranteed." Lin Feng's purple chi maze had been used for the first time when a foundation disciple was promoted to a true teaching disciple. He had also used it later on. After Zhu Yi and the others' cultivations became more profound, they could also simulate and recreate it. Therefore, Li Yuanfang also knew the principle behind it. The two of them made up their minds, but it left Qing slightly dazed. Zhu Yi's decision to split up implied that he and Li Yuanfang would each lead a team. Qing had no doubts about Zhu Yi's cultivation, but Li Yuanfang, who only had an early-stage golden elixir cultivation, left him slightly dazed. Jieyu and White Light also revealed puzzled expressions. Previously, they had been in seclusion for a long period of time, so their understanding of Li Yuanfang was limited. They only knew that this dark-skinned and unassuming youth was also Lin Feng's personal disciple. In the Divine Land, those below the nascent divinity stage, including our own brothers and sisters in Xianmen Tianzong, there are no more than 5 people who can defeat my 6th junior brother in the art of formations. As if he had seen through Qing and the others' puzzlement, Zhu Yi said indifferently, "Even among nascent divinity stage cultivators, there are many who are not adept in formations. These people are inferior to my 6th junior brother in the art of formations." Qing and Jieyu looked at Li Yuanfang in shock. Whether they had known him for a long time or a short time, they could tell that Zhu Yi was not a person who would lie or exaggerate. But even so, what he said was a little too shocking. On the other hand, Li Yuanfang was neither arrogant nor humble. Instead, he looked at Zhu Yi very seriously. The Qin dynasty and the Zhou dynasty both have nascent divinity stage cultivators after all. It is unknown whether there are people who are adept in formations among them. In order to save time and further increase our speed, second senior brother, please execute the Dragon Ascension technique and lend me a hand. Zhu Yi nodded. Even if you didn't say it, I had the same intention. After saying that, he immediately made a hand seal, and the silhouette of an azure dragon appeared in the air. With a mighty dragon roar, it coiled around Li Yuanfang's body. Chapter 763. The azure dragon's silhouette circled around Li Yuanfang's body. Its formidable power resonated with Li Yuanfang's own transcendence energy, forming a profound concept of constantly advancing. The azure dragon's silhouette outside Li Yuanfang's body entangled with the patterns of light gushing out of his body, turning into a halo that circulated silently. Qing like, Jieyu, and white light immediately sensed that Li Yuanfang's essence, qi, and spirit had been greatly enhanced. This feeling, mid-stage golden elixir? Qing like was slightly dazed. He was a magic treasure's origin spirit, and mid-stage golden elixir cultivators were not worth mentioning to him at all. However, Li Yuanfang had clearly been at the early stage golden elixir, but under the effect of Zhu Yi's dragon ascension art, he had actually risen to the mid-stage golden elixir. This change greatly interested him. In the long history of the heaven primal world, both humans and demons had secret arts that could temporarily enhance one's cultivation. However, most of them had side effects, and they could basically only be used on oneself, not others. It was not impossible for nascent divinity powerhouses or Yuaniing patriarchs to help a golden elixir period cultivator improve in a short period of time, but for the golden elixir period cultivator themselves, it was akin to pulling a seedling up to hasten its growth, and there were side effects. Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang came from the same sect, and there was no conflict between them. Naturally, he would not harm Li Yuanfang. Although he had to hurry to break the nameless ancient formation, he was not in such a hurry that he had to use a method that had huge side effects. Qing like carefully sensed the transcendence energy undulations around Li Yuanfang and the movement of his spirit. Soon, he discovered that Zhu Yi's method had no side effects on Li Yuanfang at all. If he had to point out a flaw, it would be that, like other methods that could temporarily enhance one's cultivation, it had a time limit. Qing like could vaguely sense that as time passed, the dragon ascension art would gradually fade away, but after its transcendence energy dissipated, Li Yuanfang's cultivation would return to the original early-stage golden elixir. Zhu Yi turned to look at the wide-eyed Jieyu and white light couple. This method can only be used on others, it's useless on myself. With my current cultivation base, I can only help cultivators below the nascent divinity realm. Jieyu, you are already at the late stage of the Demon King realm. I am unable to help you advance to the level of the immortal demon soul. However, your wife can advance to the late stage of the Demon King realm. However, this technique can only take effect once for a certain period of time for the same person, and it can't be used consecutively. Therefore, I'm thinking of upgrading your wife after we break the array and officially explore the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. Jieyu and White Light both nodded. Zhu Yi then passed Qing Like's jade table to Li Yuanfang. The two of you, along with Senior Qing Like and sixth junior brother, mainly protect him from being injured by the illusions of the formation. The matter of breaking the formation can be left to sixth junior brother. I'll go alone. Let's split up. Although the nameless ancient formation was already very weak and did not possess great destructive power, it was connected to the layers of illusions of the Yingzhou Immortal Sea. Under the effect of the ancient formation, the perception of those who entered the formation was still greatly weakened. There was no light, no sound, and it was very easy to fall into the illusions. Once one fell into it, it would be very dangerous. Qing Like did not decline and thought to herself, I've also stayed in this nameless ancient formation before. If this sixth disciple of Master can't break the formation or is too slow, I can also lend him a hand to avoid any delays. But very soon, Qing Like realized that her worries were completely unnecessary. The first formation pattern, Yin advances and Yang retreats, Bingwu advances Jiazi, Yiwei advances Guichen. The second formation pattern, Yin retreats and Yang advances, Dingxi advances Rinshou, Gengmao advances Binghai. The formation pattern is too primitive. The heavenly stems and earthly branches method is too complicated to calculate, so I'll use the Hulua numbering method instead. Li Yuanfang walked forward with a calm expression. He spoke very quickly, but enunciated his words clearly. He was not talking to Qing Like and the others, but was purely talking to himself out of habit when he was deducing the formation. The first group of 10 formation patterns, the center does not move, and the left rotates to generate each other. The first, third, fifth, seventh, and ninth formation patterns produce yang qi. The seventh formation pattern is abnormal. The second earth produces fire, and the seventh heaven produces it. If the seventh heaven fails, the second earth does not produce it. The second, fourth, sixth, eighth, and 10th formation patterns produce death. Now that the second formation pattern is missing, we can begin to break the death gate formation from here. The second group of 10 formation patterns, the center does not move, and the left rotates to generate each other. The first, third, fifth, seventh, and ninth formation patterns produce yang qi. The first formation pattern is abnormal. The first heaven produces water, and the sixth earth does not produce it. If the first heaven fails, the sixth earth does not produce it. The second, fourth, sixth, eighth, and 10th formation patterns produce death. Now that the sixth formation pattern is missing, we can begin to break the death gate formation from here. The third group of 10 formation patterns, the fourth group of 10 formation patterns, Li Yuanfang's footsteps did not stop along the way. To him, because the power of the nameless ancient formation had been weakened, he did not need to divert his attention to resist the formation's invasion. He could simply deduce the formation's changes. As long as he had a good start and figured out the patterns within, his speed of breaking the formation would become faster and faster. Although the nameless ancient formation was fused with various illusory powers, with qing like Jieyu and white light watching over it, Li Yuanfang did not need to divert his attention. Qing like and the other two looked at him. Apart from being shocked, they also felt that it was only natural. Inside the nameless ancient formation, although Li Yuanfang's expression was calm, his eyes were faintly sparkling. To others, the formation was complicated, difficult, and boring, but he enjoyed it and was filled with interest. Inside the formation, Zhu Yi, Li Yuanfang, and the others seemed to be in an independent space. From the point of view of Lin Feng and the others outside the formation, it was as if the tens of thousands of jade plates that shrouded the immortal mountain of immortal abode had been pieced together, as if the ground was paved with neat rectangular bricks. At this moment, the innumerable jade plates began to move incessantly. Amidst the chaos, there was a strange sense of beauty. Today, with the nameless ancient formation greatly weakened, whether it was Lin Feng, Liang Pan, or Stonefeather, it would not take much effort for them to break the formation. However, in comparison, it would definitely be faster to use Yujing Mountain, the Grand Imperial Palace, or the Immortal Dragon City to crush them with brute force. If it were not for the other two clans eyeing them covetously from the side, even Lin Feng would not mind using a less troublesome method to deal with it. After all, he was not as obsessed with formations as Li Yuanfang. However, the current situation was actually very good. Lin Feng was very confident in his disciple's auspicious ability. In particular, it was not only Zhu Yi who had arrived, but the second one had also arrived. Xiao Yan, Xiao Zhener Yang Qing, Kuei Niu King, and Sea Spirit Chariot King had also arrived in the sky above Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. With a thought from Lin Feng, he had already explained the matter to them using his transcendence energy. At the same time, Xiao Yan had also clearly explained what he had seen and heard. When he heard that there was a monk who had manifested the Buddha's Dharmakaya, Lin Feng nodded slightly and did not speak. After everything was explained, Xiao Yan and the others cupped their hands towards Lin Feng and landed on Yingzhou Immortal Mountain below. Liang Pan and Stonefeather did not object, although they had noticed that Xiao Yan had already reached the late stage of yuanying. Comparing the strength of Zhu Yi's late stage of yuanying, it was not difficult to imagine that the current Xiao Yan could also not be measured by the standard of yuanying cultivators. However, it was impossible for them to stop Xiao Yan and the others from entering. That would be too petty, and it would make them look even more cowardly. Now they could only hope that Monk Dekong, King Jingfang, and Stonefeather would not let them down. However, Xiao Yan and the others were slower than Zhu Yi, Monk Dekong, and Stonefeather by a period of time. If they wanted to break the nameless ancient formation and ascend Yingzhou Immortal Mountain, they would be much later. Their starting point was too slow. The nameless ancient formation was different from the illusions that Lin Feng had broken earlier. The formation would not disappear directly if one person broke the formation. As the eye of the formation was Yingzhou Immortal Mountain, it could not be broken completely. The geographical spiritual qi used to build the formation also came from the illusions of the Yinghai Immortal Mountain. Unless Lin Feng and the others destroyed it forcefully from the outside, it would not disappear. Therefore, Xiao Yan and the others could not enjoy the fruits of Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang's efforts. They could only rely on themselves. As time passed, the sphere-like jade plates on Yingzhou Immortal Mountain formed a complete ring and suddenly stopped. Then, it shone with a dazzling brilliance. Within the nameless ancient formation, Zhu Yi advanced calmly. A huge tortoise shadow hovered in the air like a small island. The spirit tortoise's eyes were calm like the vast ocean. On the tortoise's back, there were millions or even billions of light-patterned talismans that were constantly being destroyed and reborn. They were like bubbles in the ocean, rising and falling. These talismans and words constantly combined without stopping. However, from afar, it seemed like a huge 8 trigrams diagram. Through his myriad manifestations art of repatriation, the speed at which Zhu Yi broke the nameless ancient formation was even faster than Li Yuanfang. After all, his cultivation was more than a major realm higher than Li Yuanfang's, so he was more sensitive to the flow of spiritual qi in the formation. As he walked, Zhu Yi suddenly stopped and smiled. The colorless water before him rippled with a mixture of black and white, and Li Yuanfang and the others walked out. As soon as they saw each other, the two of them could not be bothered to exchange pleasantries. They immediately summarized the changes that they had derived and verified each other. After completely understanding the changes, Zhu Yi nodded. "I'll do it." Li Yuanfang had no objections. In a situation where they were both familiar with the changes in the formation, Zhu Yi's cultivation was higher, so his chances of breaking the formation were obviously higher. Zhu Yi's hands formed a seal on his abdomen. It was agile and solemn at the same time, simple and profound. The eyes of the huge spirit tortoise above his head suddenly shone with light. It was peaceful and distant, constantly stirring up the wave-like space. Under the influence of the spirit tortoise's gaze, the space they were in seemed to be boiling water, constantly fluctuating. Huge bubble-like objects exploded before Zhu Yi and the others one after another. Colors began to appear in the space once again, and rumbling sounds rang out by their ears. Finally, the entire space seemed to shatter. The scenery before their eyes changed. They had already left the nameless ancient formation and arrived on an immortal island that seemed like a continent. Stepping on the ground, they sensed the abundant spiritual qi on the island and experienced the laws of the world. Zhu Yi confirmed that they were not in an illusion, but had actually stepped onto the immortal mountain of Yingzhou. "It's actually so easy. This feels far too unreal," a voice rang out from the jade table. His tone was filled with disbelief. Zhu Yi smiled and said, "The ancestors plant trees, and the descendants benefit from the shade. Previously, there were too many people attacking the nameless ancient formation, causing its power to be extremely weak. Just taking away its color and sound doesn't have much effect on us breaking the formation. A formation that has lost its offensive power is no longer dangerous. It's like a dying person that can only watch as we analyze the changes in the formation and find a way to break it." Li Yuanfang said, "By the same logic, even if others aren't skilled in formations, they won't take too long to break it. We might be the first batch to break it, but we have to hurry." Zhu Yi looked at the vast immortal mountain before him. "Let's go." Chapter 764. Compared to the squarish Fangzhong Immortal Mountain that was 5,000 kilometers long, the Ingzhou Immortal Mountain with a circumference of 4,000 kilometers was much smaller. However, the Immortal Mountain was still vast and could be called a giant island. It was like a small piece of land. After Zhu Yi and the others broke through the formation, they quickly rushed toward the top of the Immortal Mountain. Without any prior experience, they noticed that the top of the Ingzhou Immortal Mountain was where the spiritual qi of the entire Immortal Mountain gathered. The majestic spiritual qi flowed down from the top of the mountain and into the belly of the mountain. It was like an axis that drove the Immortal Mountain. As they walked, Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang sensed something at the same time. They suddenly turned to look at the nameless ancient formation. The two of them looked at each other. Someone else has broken through the formation. The speed at which they broke through the formation was not much slower than theirs. The reason why they were able to break through the nameless ancient formation so quickly was because Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang had high attainments in formations. They were able to split up. In the nameless ancient formation in the distance, a group of people landed on Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. They were the cultivators of the great Qin dynasty. The person in the lead was neither King Jingfang Shi Lin nor Tao Master Chang'e. It was Shi Xingyun. She looked up at the top of the mountain and vaguely sensed something. It's Xianmen Tianzong's fellow cultivators Zhu Yi and Li Yuanfang. It seems that the two of them are splitting up. Each of them is walking in a semicircle. King Jingfang Shi Lin frowned slightly. Since he had been sent by Emperor Qin Shi Yu to lead the team to break through the nameless ancient formation and explore Ingzhou Immortal Mountain, he was naturally a cultivator with high attainments in formations. Coupled with Shi Xingyun's unknown superb formation skills, they were still slower than Xianmen Tianzong even though they had split up and walked in a semicircle. They had a combination of a second-tier essence soul realm cultivator and a mid-stage Yuanying cultivator. Yet, they were inferior to the other party's late-stage Yuanying cultivator and early-stage golden elixir cultivator. Shi Lin said in a deep voice, "Let's go. We'll rush to the top of the mountain immediately." "Yes, royal uncle." Shi Xingyun nodded. Tao Master Everlasting Joy did not say anything else. He called for the other cultivators of the great Qin dynasty to take Shi Xingyun and follow behind Shi Lin. Not long after they left, the void shook again. The great Zhou dynasty cultivators finally passed through the formation and arrived at Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. Monk De Kong looked at the peak of the mountain and shook his head with a smile. Although I have the experience and guidance of the seniors from the Buddhist sects, one person's speed is still not as fast as two people working together to break the formation. Beside him, Venerable Sword Listener didn't say anything. Sword cultivators were never good at formations. Even if they were good at sword formations, which were very different from ordinary formations. Their reference value was very limited. Monk De Kong sighed with emotion. Then, he flew toward the top of the mountain. Tide Listening Sword Venerable and the others followed closely behind. Zhu Yi and the others were in the lead. They headed toward the top of Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. Along the way, there were spiritual medicines and herbs everywhere, which were dazzling to the eyes. The abundant spiritual qi was also a suitable environment for cultivators to cultivate. Although it's not as good as Yujing Mountain, it's better than the Xiantian realm. There are many resources on the mountain. Even if it's not as good as the Xiantian realm, which is a medium-sized world, the variety and quantity are quite considerable. Zhu Yi glanced at Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. Moreover, there's also the Jade Spring that Senior Qing like mentioned, which can help improve the cultivation of magic treasures. Although Qing like and Yuji longed for the Jade Spring, they knew that it was not the time for them to soak in the spring. They would naturally have time after Lin Feng, Zhu Yi, and the others took control of Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. Similar to the Ingzhou Immortal Mountain, there were many illusions on Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. Many spiritual medicines and treasures on the Dead Mountain were actually created by the illusions. The most dangerous and most deceptive illusion was located at the peak of Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. It distorted time and space, creating a fake peak that leaked a majestic spiritual energy pulse to confuse the climbers. After a long period of searching, victory was finally right in front of them. As long as they took that last step, Ingzhou Immortal Mountain would fall into their hands. After controlling it, it would be endlessly useful, and they would be able to walk freely in the Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. The more difficulties they had experienced before, the stronger and more realistic the feeling of finally getting what they wanted was. However, Zhu Yi, Li Yuanfang, and the others firmly suppressed this thought. They were not confused by the illusions, and they carefully analyzed and restored the void. They immediately realized that the illusions were actually in the sky far away from the peak of the mountain. Compared to the peak of Ingzhou Immortal Mountain in front of them, it was like a reflection in a mirror. Zhu Yi and the others broke through the illusions and landed on the peak of Ingzhou Immortal Mountain. The moment they steadied themselves, the entire Ingzhou Immortal Mountain seemed to shake. Light runes lit up on the peak of the mountain, forming a huge circular array. It was not used to trap and kill enemies, but to guide Zhu Yi and the others into the belly of the mountain. After entering the belly of the mountain, it was pitch black, and there was no light. There was no natural light, and even when Zhu Yi and the others wanted to create light, they realized that they could not see their fingers in front of them. This is somewhat similar to the eternal night Devil Steel's power concept. It is like the primordial darkness, and the eternal night slumber will devour the light. Zhu Yi and the others did not panic, and they used their divine senses to explore the path. Silently, they felt the spiritual energy flow in the belly of the mountain. The majestic and vast spiritual energy gathered together like a tide, and there was an obvious direction. Zhu Yi and the others followed the direction of the spiritual qi tide. Along the way, there were still quite a number of magical power restrictions blocking their way. Everyone dealt with them as they saw them, resolving them one by one. In the end, they actually managed to catch a glimpse of a faint light. It's here. Zhu Yi and the others were invigorated, and they advanced in the direction of the light. The further they went, the more obvious the light became. At the end, a wall appeared in front of them. This wall was as translucent as crystal, and it emitted a gentle light. But strangely, this translucent crystal wall did not reflect Zhu Yi and the others' figures like a mirror. The group exchanged looks, feeling that the wall in front of them was a little strange. Zhu Yi reached out his palm and touched the wall. It was not cold, but warm. He tried to tear through the void and pass through the wall, but he realized that he could not do it. He tried to forcefully destroy the wall, but he realized that the wall was like a wave. It only shook and distorted slightly before returning to its original state. Zhu Yi frowned slightly. Only an expert at the third level of the Essence Soul realm, or at the Tao Integration realm, can hope to forcefully break it. No, even an expert at the Tao Integration realm might not be able to do it. Probably only a creation-grade Dharma treasure can do it. White Light walked forward and touched the crystal wall gently. A moment later, he said, "This wall is probably related to illusions, and it's a very mysterious and powerful illusionary realm. It's just that we can't seem to enter it?" White Light was from the White Jade Dragon Clan. The White Jade Dragon Clan's innate divine ability was to transform between the real and the virtual world. It was an extremely brilliant spatial illusionary technique. Although it was not the Fox Clan and the Mirage Monster's Tao of Illusion, it was more sensitive to spatial changes. It's different from the previous illusionary realm. Not only is it preventing us from falling into it, but it's also repelling us from entering it. After listening to White Light's analysis, Zhu Yi looked at Qing Like's jade table. Senior Qing Like, with the passage of time, many of the things that have been passed down are actually somewhat specious. It couldn't be better to ask a witness like you who already existed in the Middle Ages. Back then, Did anyone really ascend the immortal mountain of Ingzhou and see the illusionary realm that we're facing now? Qing Like was not in a hurry to answer. Slowly, after a moment of silence, she said, I only heard it from others. I can't confirm the authenticity of the information. Rumor has it that in the early years of the Middle Ages, there was an elder of the Tempest Temple who was at the third level of the Golden Body Realm. His name was Monk Zhi Guang. He broke through the nameless ancient formation and entered the belly of the mountain through the formation at the top of the mountain. But in the end, Monk Zhi Guang failed to control the immortal mountain of Ingzhou and was expelled by the vast power of the immortal sea. He returned to the Tempest Temple alive and mentioned that there was a strange illusionary realm in the belly of the immortal mountain of Ingzhou that repelled outsiders. Perhaps it's the illusionary realm in front of us, Qing Like said. Monk Zhi Guang intended to visit the immortal mountain of Ingzhou again when the three mountains reappeared. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to wait for the right time and passed away due to other matters. Jie Feng curled his lips. After the attacks of generations of powerhouses, the protective restrictions on the three mountains of the immortal sea are indeed getting weaker and weaker. At least we weren't expelled by the immortal mountain using the power of the immortal sea. However, it's not a good idea to linger outside the door of the treasury. The immortal mountain's restrictions are still very strong. Zhu Yi rubbed the voice transmission crystal in his hand. This strange illusionary realm should be formed by the combination of the immortal mountain of Ingzhou and the mysterious power of the entire immortal sea. This means that we're getting closer and closer to controlling the immortal mountain of Ingzhou. We can't get in touch with Master and the rest on the immortal mountain. I don't know if eldest senior brother and the rest have arrived. If they're in the nameless ancient formation now, we can get in touch with them and help them break the formation as soon as possible. Zhu Yi put away the voice transmission crystal and started to seriously examine the illusionary realm that looked like a crystal wall in front of him. While Xianmen Tianzong and the rest were studying the illusionary realm, the cultivators from the Great Qin dynasty and the Great Zhou dynasty arrived at the top of the mountain one after another and entered the belly of the mountain through the formation. The space inside the belly of the mountain was quite strange. The three groups were completely separated and encountered different restrictions on the immortal mountain. However, all of them reached the same destination by different means. They all encountered a crystal-like wall that blocked their paths. The core illusionary realm of the immortal mountain of Ingzhou is also the link between the immortal mountain and the immortal sea. Monk De Kong took a deep breath and took out a Buddhist relic. The Buddhist relic looked dim and small like a date pit. It was pitch black and inconspicuous. Patriarch Zhi Guang, disciple will need to borrow your experience and wisdom. Monk De Kong put his palms together and chanted sutras silently. The Buddhist relic flew into the sky and still looked inconspicuous. It was not like the ordinary Buddhist relic that shone with Buddha light or the sound of chanting and sandalwood incense. But there was a sense of freedom and tranquility within, a profound Zen intent that made one feel at ease. Suddenly, black sutras surged out of the Buddhist relic like ropes and entered the crystal wall. At the same time, black sutras that looked like ropes wrapped around Monk De Kong's body. Chapter 765. Through the black scripture, Monk De Kong, the relic, and the crystal wall seemed to have become one. Above his head, the Buddha's aura flickered and condensed into a huge Buddha Dharmakaya. It was pure gold and glowed in green. Sword Venerable Heating and the others beside Monk De Kong had heard him explain the situation before, so they were not surprised. They looked at Monk De Kong revealing his Rulai Dharmakaya. The great Thunderclap Monastery's upper echelon, Monk De Kong, who was once nurturing talents with great emphasis, cultivated the Buddhist Dharma that was on par with the Immeasurable Light Buddha scripture and Mahavairokkana Buddha scripture. He cultivated the second realm of the golden body of Buddhism and condensed the Rulai Dharmakaya. Naturally, he obtained the image of Buddha Dharmakaya. He held 2 Vajras in his right hand and a bell in his left. The throne was carried by a sangsang bird with horns. The sangsang bird was a spiritual bird that existed in the immemorial and ancient times. It was extinct now and had a human body, bird wings, and horns. In ancient times, many people went out to sea to search for treasures. It was said that as long as they could hear the sangsang's voice, they would be able to achieve what they wanted even if they didn't see it. Although it didn't show its face, its voice was very influential. In the Buddhist scripture, the sangsang bird's special characteristic came from the Buddha, which was one of the 5 wisdom of Buddha. Buddha Dharmakaya had the ability to achieve everything. However, Monk Dakong's Buddha Dharmakaya did not pass through the crystal wall, but to activate the relic left by Monk Zhiguang. The black scripture that extended from the relic like a chain finally changed. It gradually turned golden with a bright Buddha's aura. Above Monk Dakong's head, Bukong had achieved realized Dharmakaya and gradually condensed, turning into a transparent divine soul. Through the scripture chains that had already turned golden, it first fused into the Sarira. Then, the Sarira shone brightly and light shadows floated out from within, entering the crystal wall. The other cultivators of Great Zhou and Songhai Sword Sect also walked to the crystal wall. Their spirits left their bodies and floated towards the crystal wall without activating their yuanying or golden elixir. Sword Venerable Heating and the rest did not move. Silently, they stayed where they were and watched their surroundings. They were protecting Monk Dakong and the others. Monk Dakong had directly activated the remnant memories of the true Ru soul contained in Zen Master Zhiguang's Sarira, so he already had a plan on how to enter the illusion realm of the Immortal Mountain's core. Xianmen Tianzong and the people from the Great Qin dynasty were much more troublesome. They had to think hard about how to enter the secret realm. Zhu Yi, Li Yuanfang, Jieyu, and White Light sat cross-legged on the spot, silently looking at the crystal wall in front of them, patiently pondering and observing. They all knew that being impatient would not solve the problem. The Li green jade table was placed in front of Zhu Yi. It did not make any sound. He was also carefully sensing the crystal wall in front of him. In Zhu Yi's eyes, the silhouette of a giant tortoise flashed. Countless talisman patterns surged as he calculated and deduced. He suddenly felt that he had entered an incomparably mysterious realm. His consciousness had completely separated from his physical body and even his spirit, merging into the vast heaven and earth. Silently, he looked at himself who was sitting cross-legged on the spot. Yuanying could not feel it, his physical body could not feel it, and even his spirit could not feel it. However, Zhu Yi could clearly see a bright flame burning on his spirit, cleansing it and making it stronger and stronger. This kind of strength was not the strengthening of the spirit or the degree of agility. Instead, it was extremely mysterious, as if he could see through the mysteries of the past, present, and future. This flame was the fire of wisdom that only Zhu Yi could see. Among Lin Feng's direct disciples, Wang Lin and Zhu Yi had the strongest spirit. However, these two did not have innately strong spirits like Shi Tianyi. Wang Lin's spirit had been cleansed by the true water of the netherworld, while Zhu Yi's spirit had undergone a transformation because of the fire of wisdom that had lit up his spirit during the Desolate Sea Spiritual Assembly at the North Wind Sea Lake. However, since then, this mysterious change had never appeared again. Even Zhu Yi could not reproduce it. But today, in front of the crystal wall, silently felt the mysterious changes that seemed to be projected by the entire Ing Sea's wonderful will. Zhu Yi had lit up his fire of wisdom again. His spirit was even more sensitive than before. It was as if he had broken free from the shackles of life and looked down at the river of time, investigating the secrets of the past and the changes of the future. Even many Essence Soul Realm experts did not have such a powerful perception ability. They could not be so sharp. Although the fire of wisdom was extinguished in a short moment, Zhu Yi still accurately grasped the crux of the problem. Spirit? Spirit? Zhu Yi's eyes flashed. Li Yuanfang and the others looked at him. Zhu Yi composed himself and said, "If my perception and calculations are not wrong, only a pure spirit can enter this illusion that looks like a crystal wall. Even essence soul realm cultivators have to transform their spirit into the form of a spirit." Li Yuanfang frowned slightly. If only a spirit enters, then one can only rely on the power of the spirit to deal with the various changes in the illusion. All magic power and magical powers are useless. Dharma artifacts, talismans, and elixirs cannot be used either. Slowly, Zhu Yi shook his head. No. Although I am not sure, I can vaguely feel that there are other things hidden in the illusion. It is not that simple. He looked at the others and said, "I will enter with my spirit. You guys stay here and protect me." Jie Yu said worriedly, "You alone?" Zhu Yi nodded. "The illusion is strange. Although it may not be a simple competition of spirit power, my spirit power is the strongest among all of us here. I will enter." Jie Yu and White Light looked at each other. Their divine spirits were not weak, but they couldn't leave Li Yuanfang alone to guard the path of retreat. Even if Zhu Yi was the boy of many treasures, he had the Greenly Jade Table, the ancient Saint Robe, the Eternal Night Devil Steel, and even the Yang Sky Lantern and Serene Sky Robe that he had yet to completely refine. Without Zhu Yi's control, these transmogrification or spirit-nurturing artifacts would not be able to play their role. But letting Zhu Yi enter alone was a little too dangerous. White Light thought about it and said, "I'll follow Elder Zhu in. Hubby and Elderly, as well as the various magic treasures, stay behind to guard." Jie Feng opened his mouth, but White Light said before him, "We demons aren't good at controlling treasures, and these treasures aren't refined by us. Husband, you're a late-stage demon king, so it's better for you to control them than a mid-stage demon king. Wife, you and Elder Zhu must be careful." Jie Yu could only nod helplessly. Since it was agreed, there was no time to lose. Zhu Yi and White Light's spirits immediately left their bodies and flew towards the crystal wall. Zhu Yi's senses were right. After leaving his corporeal body, his spirit entered the crystal wall-like immortal mountain's core illusion without any hindrance. After entering the illusion, the scene in front of him changed. Countless stars were destroyed as if he was in the vast starry sky of the universe. Before Zhu Yi could react, his spirit was wrapped by a ball of starlight. Zhu Yi sensed carefully and found that the ball of starlight didn't cause any harm to his spirit. Instead, it seemed to let him enter a new corporeal body. It was just that this new corporeal body wasn't in the shape of a human, nor did it look like any living creature. It was still a ball of dark red starlight. But after merging with this ball of starlight, Zhu Yi instantly felt that there were many more fragments in his spirit's memory. These were memory fragments that did not belong to him, but from another person. Images continuously flowed into his mind. This is the spirit imprint of Tao Lord Hao Yang Wang Hao? Among Lin Feng's disciples, Zhu Yi was the most knowledgeable. Although there were some things that he focused on and missed out, he could still deduce the identity of the original owner by referring to these spirit imprints. Wang Hao, the successor of the Astro Sovereign in the ancient times, had the honorific title of Tao Lord Hao Yang. He followed the Astro Sovereign and inherited the orthodoxy that the Astro Sovereign comprehended from the changes of the stars. His cultivation reached the primordial spirit stage 2 and returned to the virtual state. Later, he died in the Ying Sea when the three mountains of Ying Sea appeared. But as far as Zhu Yi knew, the death of Tao Lord Hao Yang had nothing to do with Ying Zhou Deity Mountain. Instead, it had something to do with Fangzhong Deity Mountain. Zhu Yi calmed himself down and activated this temporary starlight body, trying to move forward in the illusion. But very quickly, countless stars rushed towards him. The infernal inferno formation of the reincarnation sect's hell path, the Shaoshang sword of the Mount Shu sword sect, the blood god light of the Blood River sect of the medieval era, the heaven sky thunder of the purple cloud path, and even the supreme 9 apertures true god treasure formula of the Taishu temple. All kinds of Tao skills and divine powers attacked Zhu Yi. Every star released a type of divine powers and Dharma art. They were the secret great Tao of each faction. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through Zhu Yi's mind. The might of Tao skills and divine powers are different. They aren't at the level of a cultivator of the same cultivation level. The Supreme 9 Apertures True God Treasure formula of the Taishu Temple is used by a cultivator at the first tier of the Essence Soul Realm. The Shaoshang Sword of the Mount Shu Sword is at the second tier of the Essence Soul Realm. The Infernal Inferno formation of the Reincarnation Sect's Infernal Inferno formation is only at the late stage of the Yuanying. The Heaven Sky Thunder of the Purple Cloud Path should be at the first tier of the Essence Soul Realm. Knowing that he was going to Yingzhou, Zhu Yi read through all the information he could gather about Yingzhou in the outside world. With the strength of his soul, he could remember any amount of information with a few glances. At that moment, names immediately surfaced in his mind. Tao Venerable Ling Qin of the Taishu Temple, first tier of the Essence Soul Realm, died in the Yingzhou deity realm. A Shaoshang Sword Venerable in the medieval era of the Mount Shu Sword sect, second tier of the Essence Soul Realm. He failed to attack Mount Penglai and was suppressed to death by the power of Yingzhou deity realm. I don't know much about the Reincarnation sect's hell path. I haven't reached the Essence Soul Realm, so the information is vague. I'm afraid only his own sect has records about it. 6,000 years ago, a Essence Soul Realm cultivator of the Purple Cloud Path, named Tao Venerable Shocking Thunder, failed to attack Mount Fangzhong. He was surrounded by dragons and died. There are others, including the Hao Yang Tao Venerable that I am now. Zhu Yi took a deep breath. Yingzhou deity realm is the core of the Yingzhou deity realm. In the Yingzhou deity realm, all the powerful cultivators who died in Yingzhou deity realm are restored. Facing the overwhelming attacks, Zhu Yi blocked them. As the starlight shone, he didn't use the various divine powers that he had cultivated. Instead, he used the light to form a cultivator's body. His chi and blood exploded as he punched out. The secret martial arts of the Kingdom of Qin, 28 Constellations, Star Godly Fist. Chapter 766. Zhu Yi observed carefully and discovered that the many divine abilities and Dharma spells that were attacking him were not all aimed at him. The stars were attacking each other and casting magical powers and spells, as if they wanted to get rid of all the stars around them. These stars seemed to be in chaos and had no intelligence. Although the starlight had perfectly restored the power levels of these powerhouses that had fallen in the Ying Ocean, and they had mastered their respective divine abilities and magic arts, they still lacked agility. They were like puppets. Because the imprint of the spirit is not complete, the Tao and spells I got are not complete either. I can't master the Tao and spells, so I can only use the starlight to cast magical powers and martial art. But because the memory of the spirit and the starlight are of the same origin, it is separated from my own spirit, so I can't cast my own Tao and spells. If I force myself to use it, it will be like trying to draw a tiger but failing. When my soul enters this place, if the cluster of starlight that I'm residing in is destroyed by someone, the consequences will be hard to predict. It's possible that I'll have to reside in another cluster of starlight, or I'll be expelled by the illusion, but it's also possible that my soul will be destroyed. Zhu Yi was thinking, but he didn't slow down at all. He used the secret martial arts of the Astro Sovereign from the memory of Hao Yang, the 28 Constellations, Star Godly Fist. It was the Hornwood Dragon, which hit the Shaoshang Sword of Mount Shu that was the first to attack him. The first of the 7 constellations of the Eastern Azure Dragon was the Horn, also known as the Hornwood Dragon. It was the head of the 7 constellations, Star Godly Fist. It had 2 stars, like the 2 horns of the azure dragon. The dragon's horn was the head of killing, and it was the fiercest. This hornwood dragon was also the killer move of the 28 constellations' star godly fist. He punched out with both fists like 2 big hammers, directly smashing the opponent into powder. Facing the Shaoshang sword, the fiercest and most overbearing of the 6 meridian swords of Mount Shu, Zhu Yi didn't have the slightest intention of dodging. He directly used the hornwood dragon to attack, to fight hard with hard. In the midst of the explosion, rays of light scattered. The star that had activated the Shaoshang sword was sent flying backwards. The star that Zhu Yi's soul resided in was also sent flying backwards. However, his opponent was at an even greater disadvantage than Zhu Yi. This was because his Shaoshang sword did not have a focal point in its attack, blindly treating all the nearby stars as its target, while Zhu Yi only had his eyes on him. Under such circumstances, Zhu Yi almost destroyed the star with a single punch. But at the same time, there were other stars attacking Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi's soul trembled violently. He kept communicating with Hao Yang's soul imprint to comprehend the mysteries of Astro Sovereign's martial arts. Among all the human emperors, the one who valued the desolate ancient star sea the most was the Astro Sovereign. He refined his body with endless starlight and comprehended the changes of the stars. His physical body was so powerful that it could be counted on one's fingers in the entire ancient times. The 28 constellations' star godly fist was the most famous martial arts inherited by Astro Sovereign. The so-called 28 constellations were called the 7 constellations of the Azure Dragon in the east. They were the Wood Dragon, the Gold Dragon, the Earth Raccoon, the Room Sun Rabbit, the Heart Moon Fox, the Tail Fire Tiger, and the Water Leopard of Winnowing Basket. The 7 constellations of the Vermilion Bird in the south. They were the Wood Dragon, the Ghost Goat, the Earth Deer, the Star Horse, the Moon Deer, the Winged Fire Snake, and the Water Worm of Zhen. The 7 constellations of the White Tiger in the west. They were the Wood Wolf, the Gold Dog, the Earth Pheasant, the Sun Chicken, the Moon Crow, the Fire Monkey, and the Water Ape. The 7 constellations of the Black Tortoise in the north. They were the Wood Dragon, the Gold Ox, the Earth Bat of Girl, the Sun Rat of Emptiness, the Moon Swallow, the Room Fire Pig, and the Water Ape of Wall. Facing the attacks of the other stars, Zhu Yi kept thinking about the 28 movements of martial art. He compared it with what he had learned and tried to master it as soon as possible. This martial art is more suitable for what senior brother has learned. He practiced the Azure Dragon, the Vermilion Bird, the White Tiger, and the Black Tortoise with the 4 symbols Heaven Opening Book. If he continues to deduce the martial arts and integrate the changes of the stars, will he naturally get a similar martial arts magical arts? Zhu Yi's soul was so lively at the moment that he even had the time to think about things that were not related to the danger in front of him. The starlight in which the soul resided flickered and condensed into a human body. The acupoints all over his body vibrated together like stars in the universe. His magnificent chi and blood were connected together. However, this time, Zhu Yi didn't fight recklessly. The human body formed by the starlight suddenly stretched out its arms, as if it had given up all defense, and was ready to be slaughtered. Then he flew backward like a big bird spreading its wings. That was the winged fire snake of the 28 constellations, star godly fist. The winged fire constellation was a snake. It was the 6th constellation in the south and occupied the position of the vermilion bird's wings. That was why it was named Wing. A bird could only fly with wings. In the star godly fist, it was a movement skill that could make one's body light and leap. In the ancient times, the Astro Sovereign could fly with a wave of his arm. He could travel hundreds of thousands of miles in an instant. His speed was even faster than many magical escape skills. He was almost as fast as the golden-winged rock of the demon race in the same realm. Zhu Yi could attack and defend freely. He immediately avoided the magical arts that besieged him, making the attacks of these chaotic stars fall on nothing. There's no need to be entangled with them. It's more important to find a way to break the illusion. While thinking, Zhu Yi shook off the attacks of a few balls of starlight. He continued to perform the winged fire snake and flew to the distant starry sky. Along the way, he encountered many balls of starlight. Some had high and some were low, but the lowest was only at the yuanying stage. It seemed that only cultivators at the yuanying stage and above who had died in the Ying Sea could retain their soul imprint and be guided into this illusion. As Zhu Yi hurried along, he thought, although I entered the illusion together, I was separated from white light. Previously, there was only this kind of chaotic and numb starlight around me. None of them was white light's soul imprint. I hope she's safe. Although he wasn't sure, Zhu Yi guessed that what kind of starlight one could imprint after entering the illusion was probably random. Zhu Yi's luck was better. He imprinted the starlight transformed from Dao Venerate Hao Yang. Among the mighty cultivators that had died in the Ying Sea, other than a few third-level essence soul realm experts, Dao Venerate Hao Yang was one of the most outstanding ones. This allowed Zhu Yi to deal with most of the attacks from the chaotic starlight with ease. If he had imprinted the starlight transformed from an early-stage yuanying cultivator when he first entered, the road ahead would have been difficult. In such a chaotic battlefield, it was possible that the aftermath of the battle between the experts could destroy the starlight in which he was imprinted. Apart from the immediate benefits, in the long run, Zhu Yi, who was only at the late-stage yuanying stage, could experience the soul imprint of Dao Venerate Hao Yang, who was at the second-tier essence soul realm. It would be a rare experience for him to attain the essence soul realm in the future, or even to attain the void return realm dharma body. Using this late-stage yuanying stage cultivation to activate the body of a second-tier essence soul realm cultivator made Zhu Yi feel a little out of sync. Although his main body's combat power was superior to most first-tier essence soul realm cultivators, he was still lacking in some realms and understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth. But now that he had this experience, if he could truly absorb and stabilize his understanding, it would be a huge improvement for Zhu Yi. Oh! Zhu Yi's gaze suddenly hardened as he looked into the distance. It was also a chaotic void battlefield. Many blobs of starlight were attacking each other incessantly. However, Zhu Yi acutely discovered that one of the blobs of starlight was clearly abnormal. That was his own kind. There were also cultivators from the outside world whose souls had entered the illusion and imprinted the starlight into their bodies. Their actions were clearly rational and orderly. As they dealt with the attacks of other starlight, they advanced cautiously with a clear direction. Such a divine power realm. Is it an expert at the third-tier essence soul realm? Zhu Yi was a little puzzled. Looking at his divine power and dharma arts, the foundation of his dharmic Tao is the Buddhist Five Directions Rulai Sutra's Amitabha Achievement Rulai Sutra. But I've never heard of any Buddhist third-tier golden body mighty cultivator perishing in the Ying Sea. Third-tier essence soul realm cultivators were extremely important in their own era. Apart from a few very special cases, the death of any third-tier essence soul realm cultivator would cause a stir in their era. Not only the divine land, but the entire heaven primordial world would also be shaken. Therefore, when a third-tier essence soul realm cultivator perished, there were clear records of the reasons behind it. The Buddhist mighty figure from the Great Lane Monastery, who has the deepest relationship with the Ying Sea, is Zen Master Wisdom Guang from the Middle Epoch. Legend has it that Zen Master Wisdom Guang once ventured deep into the Ying Sea to explore. When the three mountains appeared, he also attempted to obtain the immortal mountain. However, Zen Master Wisdom Guang's death has nothing to do with the Ying Sea. Zhu Yi thought, however, the Buddhist Dharma that Zen Master Wisdom Guang cultivates is the Amitabha Achievement Rulai Sutra. This blob of starlight has its own difficulties. With this thought in mind, Zhu Yi decided to observe it for a while. However, who knew that the other party would take the initiative to come to him. As the starlight shimmered, Buddhist light surged. In a flash, it appeared in front of Zhu Yi. Amitabha achievement rulai, and all the elements were perfected. No matter where it was, there was nothing that could not be achieved. The person in the blob of starlight was Monk Dekong, who led the great Zhou dynasty's team to the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. With the help of Zen Master Wisdom Guang Saraira, he directly understood the method to enter the illusion. At the same time, he cheated by turning Zen Master Wisdom Guang's soul imprint into starlight to act as the body that his soul resided in after entering the illusion. This ensured that Zen Master Wisdom Guang's cultivation was at the third tier of the Golden Body realm. He and Zen Master Wisdom Guang were of the same lineage. They cultivated the Amitabha Achievement Rulai Sutra. At this moment, Monk Dekong, who was activating the starlight, seemed to have broken through the bottleneck and reached the third tier of the Golden Body realm. He had a preliminary understanding of the illusion. Therefore, before entering the illusion, he had instructed the great Zhou dynasty cultivators who entered with him to immediately gather when they saw the Buddhist light that he resided in. Moreover, he consecutively cast 3 defensive magical powers to identify his identity. Then, unlike the chaotic starlight, it was obvious that someone's soul resided in but did not act according to the instructions. This person was naturally the opponent of Xianmen Tianzong, or the Great Qin dynasty. Amidst the Buddhist chanting, golden paths were paved in the universe, surrounding the starlight that Zhu Yi resided in. The chaotic battle in the universe was endless. Outside the illusion, another group of people appeared on the other side of the crystal wall that didn't come into contact with Li Yuanfang, Tide Listening Sword Venerable, and the rest. The leader was a handsome young man dressed in purple clothes with a black robe on the outside. It was Xiao Yan. TSK, that damn formation is really annoying. But now it seems that there's something even more annoying. It's actually an illusion that repels people from entering. The world is really big, nothing is too strange. Chapter 767. In the illusory universe, Monk Dekong used the power of Buddha's Amitabha to achieve Rulai Sutra. Endless scriptures appeared and turned into golden roads. In the chaotic starry sky, the other starlights shot out all kinds of spells and fell on the golden road. Then, no matter what their original target was, these spells all rushed towards the starlight where Zhu Yi's soul resided under the guidance of the golden roads. Zhu Yi responded calmly. The starlight transformed into a human body. With a sway of his body, he stepped on the void and took a strange step. He almost brushed against the edge of the many powerful divine abilities and spells that were lacking in agility. It was as if these spells were not attacking Zhu Yi, but the air beside him. 28 Constellations Star Godly Fist, Zhen Waterworm. Zhen Waterworm, also known as Zhen Waterworm, was the 7th constellation in the south. It lived at the tail of the vermilion bird. The bird's tail was used to control the direction. In ancient times, the crossbar at the bottom of the carriage was called Zhen. Its position was similar to the position of the vermilion bird, so it got its name. Zhen Waterworm was also known as the heavenly chariot in ancient times. In the 28 constellations' divine fist, the Zhen Waterworm was the last move. It meant that everything would return to its original position after going through many twists and turns. The withdrawing hand was also an exquisite footwork. When the last step was taken, the body returned to its original position. Zhu Yi, on the other hand, used the retracting stance as an opening stance, and received a miraculous effect, directly dodging the overwhelming attack. And when he took a step, the human body that Zhu Yi's soul resided in by the starlight was like an unstoppable heavenly chariot. It roared and counterattacked the starlight where Monk Dekong resided. Monk Dekong was slightly surprised. It's the 28 constellations star godly fist of Astro Sovereign. Who is it? He has just attached his soul to it, and he can already master the martial arts of Astro Sovereign so well? Because he was prepared, he used the soul imprint of monk Zhi Guang, who cultivated Buddha's Amitabha, to achieve Rulai Sutra with him to condense the starlight into a body, so he didn't have to accept the random starlight in the illusory realm to reshape his body. Not only did it eliminate the uncertainty, but it also didn't cause the problem of incompatibility and need to adapt and integrate again. Instead, it increased his strength. In this illusory realm, it was almost equivalent to the rebirth of the Buddhist almighty monk Zhi Guang, who was at Golden Body Level 3. Such an experience was also a great benefit to Monk Dekong. This was the reason why he insisted on coming to Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. Even if the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain did not fall into his hands in the end, as long as he could leave safely, this trip would not be in vain. It would pave the way for him to reach the third level of the Golden Body Realm in the future, and it was just around the corner. Therefore, Monk Dekong did not take Zhu Yi's counterattack to heart. Even if Dao Lord Hao Yang was revived, he would only be at the second tier of the primordial soul realm. He would still not be a match for monk Zhi Guang, who was almost on par with Zen Master Zhi Guang. The starlight in which his divine soul resided was filled with the sound of Buddha chanting. The surrounding void was faintly condensed by the Buddha's light. In the Buddha's light, countless Buddhas were chanting together. It was as if the nirvana had arrived. Surrender. It was not Monk Dekong who spoke, but the countless Buddhas in the Buddha's light were chanting together. In the end, they formed a real voice that resounded in Zhu Yi's heart. A Rulai Dharmakaya that was formed from not emptiness had already appeared in the starry sky. He slapped his right palm towards Zhu Yi, and there was a swastika symbol on his palm that was flashing with Buddha's light. Buddhism's secret supernatural power, swastika palm print of all elements. Facing the swastika palm print of all elements that was cast by Monk Dekong, Zhu Yi's body that was condensed from starlight turned from hardness to softness. He retracted his arms to protect himself. It was a style of the 28 constellations Star's divine fist that was specially used for defense. Wall water spit. Wall, belonging to water, was spit. It was the 7th constellation in the north. Outside the house, it was shaped like a wall, hence its name, Wall. Monk Dekong did not mind. He displayed his cultivation of the third level of the Golden Body Realm and used his strength to crush the opponent in front of him. He wanted to defeat the opponent in front of him in the fastest way possible. Although he had a slight advantage with the help of Zen Master Zhi Guang's soul imprint, Monk Dekong was not confident that he could break this illusion. He was naturally happy to be able to end the battle quickly and save time. However, very soon, Monk Dekong could not laugh anymore. Seeing that the swastika palm print of all elements had broken the defense of Zhu Yi's wall water spit fist, he felt like he was stuck in a quagmire. He frowned slightly. Fire-tailed tiger? Wall, belonging to fire, was a tiger, also known as fire-tailed tiger. It was the 6th constellation in the east, and the 9 stars in the tail formed the tail of the azure dragon. The dragon's tail was the most vulnerable part in a fight, and it was a sign of great danger. However, in the 28 constellations Star's divine fist, it was designed to be the ultimate move of feigning defeat and counterattacking, just like the backstabbing tactic on the battlefield. It purposely revealed a flaw and hid a big killer move in the big flaw. This style of Zhu Yi's was not wall water spit palm from the beginning, but fire-tailed tiger. Astro Sovereign had fallen a long time ago, and there were only a few descendants in his lineage. Therefore, not many people in the Divine Land were familiar with his orthodoxy. Monk Dekong could distinguish Zhu Yi's fist momentum because he came from the Big Lane Temple, which was a holy land with a long history. However, he could barely distinguish it. It was impossible for him to understand the subtle changes of Astro Sovereign's martial arts. Zhu Yi's understanding and mastery of the 28 constellations Star's divine fist was deeper than Monk Dekong had expected. In a short time, even if he was not as good as Astro Sovereign, he was almost like the reincarnation of Hao Yang. Seeing that Monk de Kong had fallen into his trap, Zhu Yi did not hold back at all. The arms of his body that was formed from starlight circled around like a huge net, trapping the arms of Buddha Dharmakaya that Bukong had used to execute the swastika mudra of all elements to attack him. Well spit palm print, belonging to wood, was also called well wood spit palm print. It was the first of the 7 constellations of Vermilion Bird in the south. The combination of stars was like a net. Jing Muxu's fist momentum was also like a net, or a bottomless ocean, trapping all the enemies who fell into the net. In just a short moment, Zhu Yi had already executed the 28 constellations Star's divine fist to an extremely high realm. There were 3 moves within each move. Once the arm of Rulai who had achieved unemptiness was completely caught by him, with a twist of his arms, the arm of this Rulai Dharmakaya could be considered crippled. Monk de Kong murmured the name of Buddha Dharmakaya in a low voice. The Buddha Dharmakaya shone brightly, and the void around was twisted. The scriptures shining with golden light were like roads. When Zhu Yi's fist momentum fell on one of the roads, it deviated immediately. His opponent was no longer Monk de Kong, but the sword principle of Tsanghai sword sect, which was driven by a mass of chaotic starlight. Facing Zhu Yi, who was unexpectedly difficult to deal with, Monk de Kong did not dare to underestimate him. He activated the mighty divine power of Buddha Dharmakaya to the extreme. Zhu Yi's 28 constellations Star's divine fist momentum was broken, but Monk de Kong's swastika palm print of all elements spit palm print was still unstoppable. It wanted to subdue Zhu Yi and make the world complete and free. To cultivate the divine power of Buddha Dharmakaya to such a profound level, it's not only the starlight that contains the divine power derived from the spirit imprint. The person who resides in the starlight also cultivated the Buddha Dharmakaya to the Buddha Dharmakaya. Zhu Yi had his suspicions earlier, and now he was completely sure. This person is Monk de Kong from the great Zhou dynasty. He has the relics of Zen Master Zhi Guang or other mighty Buddhist cultivators who cultivated the Buddha Dharmakaya to the 3rd tier of the golden body realm. With this thought, Zhu Yi knew that the opponent in front of him was not easy to deal with. If his own cultivation was at the 2nd tier of the primordial spirit realm, he had absolute confidence that he could kill Monk de Kong, who was at the 3rd tier of the primordial spirit realm. However, now that he was using the starlight to materialize Tao Venerate Hao Yang's cultivation to fight against Zen Master Zhi Guang, it was a little inadequate. I might as well verify another of my guesses. Zhu Yi made a prompt decision, and his entire spirit trembled. The spirit in the starlight suddenly disintegrated, but it did not shatter. Instead, it turned into thousands of small people, and each of them looked like Zhu Yi himself. There seemed to be flames burning on these small people. It was a sign that the fire of wisdom was lighting up the spirit. However, the flames did not really burn, and they only stimulated the power of Zhu Yi's spirit. Not caring about the fact that the fire of wisdom could not really light up, Zhu Yi activated the power of his spirit to the extreme. A word appeared on each of the small people's bodies. Thousands of words combined and vaguely formed an article. It was earth-shattering, and even the body formed by the spirit trembled slightly. It was Zhu Yi's chapter of the saints. Because of the starlight materialization, Zhu Yi could not use other supernatural powers and dharma spells. However, this chapter of the saints was a shocking chapter that was deeply engraved in his spirit. It was the fusion of Zhu Yi's dharma spells and the essence of his thoughts, and it was different from other dharma spells and supernatural powers. At this moment, this article actually surpassed the limits of Hao Yang's spirit imprint. Through the power of the starlight, it fused into a shocking golden bridge that appeared out of nowhere. The golden bridge flew out and spanned across the heavens, directly wiping away the golden runes that extended out from Amitabha Tathagata's body like paths. The sound of chanting replaced the Buddhist chanting and echoed in the starry universe. The magnificent golden bridge directly shattered the right half of Buddha's body that was formed by Buddha's Dharma body. Seeing this golden bridge, Monk Dekong instantly reacted. "Yue, so it's you. But how can you use your divine sense and Dharma spells here?" Even though he was astonished, he did not hesitate at all. He circulated the Buddhist magic power of Buddha Sutra of Buddhahood to the extreme, and the shattered Tathagata Dharmakaya physique instantly condensed into a dazzling golden ball of light. It was as if there was a pure land within the sphere of light. Everything was perfect, and within it, anything that one wanted to do could be easily achieved. After condensing the Tathagata Dharmakaya to the second tier of the golden body realm, and then cultivating the Pure Land, turning away the worries, purifying the 5 skandhas, and attaining the Buddha's wisdom, the mighty figures of the Buddhist sects would be able to cultivate to the third tier of the golden body realm, which was equivalent to the third tier of the primordial spirit realm. Obtaining a Pure Land was equivalent to obtaining a Tao integration Tao fruit. Cultivation is not empty. Achieving the Tathagata Sutra, obtaining the Pure Land, named the Pure Land of Karma. It means to be complete, to achieve what one wants. Looking at the Pure Land, Zhu Yi's state of mind did not waver at all. He only moved the golden bridge forward fearlessly. Your Dharma will only help those who are fated and those who believe in you. My golden bridge will help everyone in the world to reach the other side. Chapter 768. To cultivate the Buddha's scripture to the highest realm was to cultivate the Pure Land of victory, eliminating jealousy and worries, and purifying the 5 skandhas. After the jealousy was transformed, the Buddha's wisdom would be achieved, and it represented all achievements. At this moment, the Pure Land of victory appeared and illuminated the void of the universe. Monk Dekong experienced the concept of power within and felt extremely satisfied and happy. Comprehending the Pure Land of victory from Monk Zhi Guang allowed him to completely understand the true meaning of the Buddha's Dharma of the Buddha's scripture. He was extremely talented and was the genius disciple who entered the Great Lane Monastery the latest but had the fastest cultivation speed. Before the Great Lane Monastery was destroyed, Monk Dekong was already at the primordial spirit golden body second tier. All these years, he had been cultivating in order to break through the final bottleneck, cultivate the Pure Land, and achieve the golden body third tier. Now, Monk Dekong could clearly feel that he had broken through the last layer. As long as he got out of the illusion and went into seclusion for a period of time, he would be able to steadily advance to the golden body third tier and cultivate his Pure Land of victory. But at this moment, facing the golden bridge formed by Zhu Yi's chapter of saints, Monk Dekong felt from the bottom of his heart that if he wanted to talk about the future, he had to get through the current crisis first. The majestic golden bridge seemed to cross the boundless sea of bitterness and reach the other side of the path, guiding everyone in the world to transcend. The golden bridge extended into the Pure Land of victory and directly penetrated the Pure Land of victory that contained the true meaning of all the perfected attainments of all the elements. Even this perfect and joyous Pure Land of Buddhism couldn't stop the torrential human Tao momentum. The will of all living beings was in high spirits and kept moving forward, and forward. The originally golden Pure Land of victory was on the verge of collapse. The Buddha's radiance withered as if the age of Dharma had arrived. Right at this moment, an enormous vein of the netherworld blood river suddenly surged out from the void universe. The turbid waves surged into the sky and emitted a nauseating stench. Merely coming into contact with this filthy aura caused the starlight destiny that Zhu Yi and Monk Dekong's souls entrusted to become sluggish, and its light dimmed slightly. In the distance, a ball of dark red starlight urged the torrential true water of the blood river to rush over. The other party's target was very clear. He ignored the other starlight and Zhu Yi and went straight for the starlight where Monk De Kong's divine soul was residing. Monk De Kong didn't dare to stay any longer. He once again took out the Pure Land of Victory and blocked the opponent's Nether Blood River. He himself withdrew and drove the starlight far away. But Zhu Yi wouldn't give him the chance. In the starlight, thousands of tiny people had already gathered to form Zhu Yi's divine soul again. New words vaguely appeared at the end of the 3 sections of the chapter of All Saints. Sure enough, this essay will only be completed after I achieve the primordial spirit. At this moment, with the help of Hao Yang's divine soul imprint, I've faintly touched the edge. Zhu Yi grasped his surging inspiration and quickly constructed the essay. The aura of the Golden Bridge formed by the chapter of All Saints became more and more majestic. With a rumble, it shot out all at once towards Monk De Kong. The divine soul of Monk De Kong, who was busy resisting the Nether Blood River and wanted to escape, chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice. Paths paved with golden scriptures appeared in the air once again. All kinds of divine abilities and spells urged by the chaotic starlight in the vicinity landed on the golden path one after another, then went to meet Zhu Yi's golden bridge. But notice that the golden bridge formed by the chapter of All Saints was even stronger than before. The Tai-In sword of a first-level primordial spirit cultivator of Mount Shu, the Avicii god-slaying sword of a second-level primordial spirit cultivator of the former demonic path Sacred Land, the Swanee race's first-level undying demon soul realm, the purple smoke cosmic thunder of a great sage Swanee, they were all shattered by the Golden Bridge, unable to stop the advance of the Golden Bridge. The majestic Golden Bridge seemed to have crossed the vast space in an instant, directly shattering the starlight that Monk De Kong's divine soul entrusted to. In the depths of Zhu Yi's divine soul, Monk De Kong's groan of pain seemed to ring out. The golden starlight that his divine soul entrusted to shattered into a few streaks, only an extremely weak streak of flowing light escaped into the distance. The rest of the starlight lost the golden light of Buddha's aura and gradually disappeared in the air. Even though you used Zen Master Zhi Guang's divine soul imprint to condense starlight into a body, and the damage wasn't to your Rulai Dharmakaya and Pure Land, just this moment can still hurt your foundation, making you unable to catch your breath for a long time. Don't even think about breaking through to the 3rd level of the Golden Body Realm. As for the state of Monk De Kong's mind, Zhu Yi also grasped it very clearly. But he didn't give chase. On one hand, there was still a person beside him, and he didn't know if he was a friend or foe. The other party had obtained the starlight condensed from the divine soul imprint of the former demonic path Sacred Land, Blood River sect, as a body to entrust his divine soul. His strength couldn't be underestimated. Because of the golden bridge formed by the Book of Saints, Zhu Yi's identity had already been exposed, but the other party's identity was still mysterious. Even though he had attacked Monk De Kong alone just now, under the situation where his identity wasn't confirmed, no one knew if the other party would change targets next. Therefore, Zhu Yi was on his guard. At the same time, activating the Book of Saints just now brought about serious side effects. Zhu Yi felt that the starlight that he had entrusted to his divine soul was trembling non-stop, as if it would collapse at any time. The connection between his divine soul and the body formed by the starlight had also become extremely weak. This is the result of me forcefully activating my divine power. Zhu Yi was well aware of it. I've broken the basic rules of the illusory realm, so naturally, I'll be rejected by the illusory realm. I'm afraid I can't use the Book of Saints anymore. Otherwise, even without the enemy attacking, my body formed by the starlight will collapse by itself. In that case, even if my divine soul isn't injured, I'll only be sent out of the illusory realm and have to start over again. The time I've wasted will be hard to make up for. Thinking of the Book of Saints, Zhu Yi shook his head slightly. His essay was still short of a few sentences, but it was ultimately not complete. Now, the second tier of the primordial soul realm belonged to Tao Venerable Hao Yang, not him. However, after this, Zhu Yi felt that he had taken a huge step closer to the primordial soul realm. The great door to divinity seemed to be faintly discernible in front of him, and he had just advanced to the late stage of yuanying not long ago. Zhu Yi looked at the dark red starlight that was surrounded by the blood river true water and tried to communicate with it. However, whenever he had the intention to express his identity, the starlight body would tremble violently and reject him further. Expressing my identity is to strengthen my own independent existence. It's the opposite of the combination of the starlight body and Tao Venerable Hao Yang's divine soul imprint. At this moment, Zhu Yi clearly saw that the dark red starlight opposite him also trembled. It clearly had the same intention as him, but after realizing that it would cause the divine soul and the body to separate, it had no choice but to give up on this action. Through the Book of Saints, my identity is already clear at a glance. Previously, the other party attacked my enemy, Monk De Kong, and now they have a clear intention to communicate. That person is most likely one of our own in Xianmen Tianzong, or a cultivator of the Great Qin dynasty. I wonder who this person is? I wonder if eldest senior brother and the others have entered this illusion. Although they could not communicate with each other, the two of them naturally chose to temporarily travel together. Of course, they would not be completely unguarded. While they temporarily worked together, they also kept their guard up. However, the two of them worked together, and their efficiency and speed of advancement were indeed much higher. When they encountered other visiting starlights, that person would use the blood river true water to surround the enemy and pollute the enemy's supernatural power. Then, Zhu Yi would activate the 28 constellations' divine fist to give a strong blow. In this process, after careful observation, Zhu Yi discovered a detail. When the chaotic starlights were completely defeated and destroyed, the main body would gradually dissipate in the starry sky, but there would be a crimson light flying into the distance. It did not escape like Monk De Kong, but like tired birds returning to the forest, they gathered together in one direction. After discovering this, Zhu Yi and his temporary companion adjusted their route and searched in that direction together. The starry sky was so vast that it almost made people lose the concept of distance. After a long time, the two of them gradually slowed down. In the distant area of their sight, a huge nebula like a whirlpool was slowly rotating. This nebula was crimson like fire, giving people a strange feeling of distortion. It seemed to be extremely huge and indescribable, but it also seemed to be extremely small like a grain of sand. The crimson light that was scattered by the shattered starlights all gathered here. The center of the nebula, like a whirlpool, kept rotating, and vaguely, there was a door that was about to open there. Without any hesitation, Zhu Yi and the crimson starlight beside him rushed toward the center of the nebula together. The mutual attacks between the groups of starlights were also in full swing here. After approaching the center, Zhu Yi immediately found that, in addition to himself and the person beside him, there were other starlights that were also entrusted by the spirit souls of people who entered the illusion. Their actions were clearly organized and their goals were clear. Everyone was rushing toward the door in the center of the nebula. Zhu Yi urged the starlights that his spirit had entrusted to rush toward the center of the nebula. Those people who had the same destination also immediately noticed him. The target was right in front of them. Although they could not identify each other, there were still people who decisively launched an attack on Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi did not hesitate, and directly fought back with the 28 constellations' divine fist. A green dragon that was swallowing blue flames was smashed by the wood dragon of the 28 constellations' divine fist of Zhu Yi's 28 constellations' divine fist. Then, facing the huge dragon body condensed by the starlights that Zhu Yi's spirit entrusted to turned into a giant. It stepped on the void, crossed its hands, and stretched out one hand as a claw, and the other as a sword. The claw scratched the weak point, and the sword poked the dragon's eye. This move contained the essence of the ghost golden goat, willow earth deer, and star horse at the same time. These 3 constellations belonged to the 7 constellations of the vermilion bird south. The giant formed by the starlights had bird claws and bird beaks. Birds and snakes were natural enemies. At this moment, Zhu Yi seemed to have transformed into a flashing vermilion bird divine bird. He directly grabbed the Jade Dragon King and stabbed it blind. Almost at the same time, another group of starlights activated the magical power of the Heavenly Pool sect, which had been destroyed not long ago, to attack, but it was also unceremoniously repelled by Zhu Yi. The target was right in front of him, and the situation was urgent. Under the situation where he could not distinguish between friend and foe, Zhu Yi simply completely calmed down. He only held hope in his own hands, and treated everyone equally. He repelled the enemies one by one, and rushed toward the center of the nebula. But after another opponent was repelled, a strong warning suddenly rose in Zhu Yi's heart. Not only did he not continue to sprint, but he also stopped moving forward. The next moment, a shadow suddenly appeared from below, and attacked Zhu Yi. Chapter 769. Zhu Yi did not underestimate his opponent after consecutively defeating an opponent who had the same intention of approaching the center of the nebula. The opponent who could control the true Blood River water was quite a threat. The Blood River sect, a super-demonic sect that had existed since ancient times, had also been prominent for a time. Historically, this sect and the Mount Shu Sword sect were mortal enemies. They had even drowned Mount Shu in blood. Although they had been defeated in the end, that battle was one of the few major disasters in the history of the Mount Shu Sword sect. It was a pity that the true Blood River water was too hated. Even during the most serious period between the human race and the demon race, the Blood River sect was viewed as an enemy by the entire divine land. Even the demon race did not like them, so they gradually declined. In ancient times, an expert from the Blood River sect had entered the Ying Sea to seize the 3 great immortal mountains. However, when he tried to charge into the Fangzhong Immortal Mountain, he perished under the suppression of the entire Ying Sea. The number of third-tier primordial spirit integration experts who died in the Ying Sea was limited, and this Blood River Heavenly Lord was one of them. According to Zhu Yi's observation, the person who had condensed starlight through the Blood River Heavenly Lord's spirit imprint and imprinted his spirit into his body had an extraordinary cultivation level. If the cultivation level of the person who entered the illusion was too low, then even if he was lucky and imprinted the starlight condensed by the spirit imprint of an almighty expert, he would not be able to fully unleash the power of his realm. It was like a 3-year-old child finding it difficult to wield a sledgehammer. However, the person in front of him had not fully unleashed the monstrous aura of the Blood River Heavenly Lord in the past, but his strength was already very impressive. However, before he faced this person, an even more intense danger approached Zhu Yi. A dark shadow below him opened its mouth and bit towards him like a giant beast from the abyss. Zhu Yi frowned slightly and used the winged fire snake fist technique to avoid the dark shadow. However, the dark shadow suddenly spread out as if it was endless and wanted to devour Zhu Yi. Faced with this overwhelming attack, Zhu Yi stood in the void and did not move. He took a fist stance and looked at the boundless dark shadow calmly. The body formed by the starlight seemed to be standing still, but it was constantly trembling at a frequency that ordinary people could not see with their naked eyes. He stood with one leg in front of the other, his spine perfectly straight. His entire upper body was like a bowstring that had been pulled to the fullest and was still quivering after firing an arrow. Sun Horse of Stars. The constellation was the Sun and the Horse, also known as the Sun Horse of Star. It was the 4th constellation in the south, and it occupied the eye of the vermilion bird. The eyes of birds were as bright as the stars, hence the name Star. As the saying goes, don't rub sand in your eyes. In the 28 constellations' divine fist, the first style of the sun horse of stars was to use stillness to stop the enemy's movements and weaknesses. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. If the enemy moves, I will move first. Although it was only for a moment, countless information flashed through Zhu Yi's mind. The Taoism of the Dark Emperor in the ancient times is not the complete Taoism of the Dark Emperor, but the inherited Taoism of the Dark Emperor that was figured out by the later generations. The giant of the diabolism in the Middle Ages, the shadow diabolism, once had a powerhouse of the second emptiness realm. He died in the Yingxi because of the three mountains. His name was Taoist Master Yuing. It seems that this man is the starlight formed by his soul mark. As he thought about this, Zhu Yi activated his physical body formed from starlight. He punched out with both fists, and his entire body burst out with a vigorous qi and blood that seemed real. All the acupoints in his body pulsed, and it was as if a star was slowly rising from each of them. His whole body was shining with starlight, dispelling the boundless dark shadow. His magnificent fist intent gradually condensed into an illusory realm, in which there were countless shining starlight. Astro King's martial arts, 3 enclosures God Palm, Heaven enclosures God Palm. After the battle with Monk De Kong, although Zhu Yi's body formed by starlight almost collapsed because he forcibly activated his chapter of saints, he had a deeper understanding of the Astro Sovereign's martial arts during the process of the fusion of his soul and starlight body. He also comprehended the 3 enclosures divine palm that he had never mastered before. The 3 enclosures were the Supreme Palace enclosure of the upper enclosure, the Purple Palace enclosure of the middle enclosure, and the Heavenly Market enclosure of the lower enclosure. The martial art that Zhu Yi was performing now was the Heavenly Market enclosure of the Heavenly Market enclosure. The true meaning of the martial art condensed almost turned into a vast starry sky. As the palm fell, it was like a group of stars falling down, extremely fierce. It fully showed the power of the Astro Sovereign, who was a powerful martial art powerhouse in the ancient times. He used to tear apart the original forms of countless ancient monsters with his bare hands. Facing the Heavenly Market enclosure of the Heavenly Market enclosure of the Heavenly Market enclosure, the dark shadow also paused for a moment. Then it suddenly broke into pieces and scattered to the side, dodging the fierce palm attack of Zhu Yi. Although he had cast the Shadow Fiend Dao's divine ability and turned himself into a shadow, which could resist and even devour many kinds of divine abilities and magical powers, it was very likely that his divine soul would be injured if he was directly bombarded by such a ferocious martial art. However, although the dark shadow scattered, it didn't mean to admit defeat. On the contrary, the scattered dark shadow continued to spread in the air, as if there was no end to them. Then they continued to pounce on Zhu Yi like a storm. Every dark shadow turned into the appearance of a black-clothed Taoist wearing a high crown and ancient clothes. Zhu Yi wasn't afraid of them. The figure formed by starlight waved its fists, ready to smash all the dark shadows one by one. However, he soon found a problem. When he punched out, those black-clothed Taoists wearing high crown and ancient clothes didn't dodge or avoid the attack. It showed that the power level was not diluted by the thousands of shadows. It was still the powerful supernatural power of the second level of the primordial divinity realm. Zhu Yi came to a realization. The Shadow Demon Doctrine. The Shadow Demon Doctrine. The Dark Emperor's primordial shadow body. The number of 1 yuan was 129,600. It was rumored that when the primordial Dark Emperor cast this art, he would have 129,600 clones. They were everywhere, and each shadow clone was like a real person. When this mighty divine ability appeared, it shocked the entire great thousand worlds. Many powerful demons died because of it, but they couldn't even find the shadow of the Dark Emperor. Even the master of the primordial heavenly dragons, the emperor of all demons, first dragon Xianshang, had a headache. Later on, first dragon Xian Shang understood the details of this powerful divine ability and experienced a great battle. In the end, he killed the Dark Emperor. Even though the primordial shadow body could create thousands of clones, not every shadow was the same as the real body. Instead, the caster could switch between their real body and the shadow clones at will. There were actually many such arts. Many powerful nascent divinity realm cultivators didn't need to use special art. They could even switch between their real bodies and their clones. However, it was extremely rare to see a primordial shadow body that could switch so quickly. It was like a primordial heart. With a thought, the real body could become a clone, and the clones would become the real body. If it was used by a mighty expert like the Dark Emperor, he could switch many times in an instant. It was so fast that it made people's hair stand on end. Such a short period of time allowed all the clones to have the fighting strength of the real body at all times. In such a situation, unless one was like Juehuang Xian Shang in the past, who relied on his advantage in strength to launch an area of effect attack and attack with his real body and clones at the same time, it would be hard for anyone to attend to one thing and lose sight of the other. However, with an area of effect attack, the attacker's strength would also be diluted. It was not easy to destroy the clones of the primordial shadow body. Therefore, in a battle between opponents of the same level, the primordial shadow body was a Dharma divine ability that gave people headache. The primordial shadow body is a rather profound divine ability in the legacy of the Dark Emperor or the legacy of the Shadow Fiend Tao. For this person to be able to cast it using a body formed from starlight, he's not simple. Zhu Yi thought to himself, the legacy of the Shadow Fiend Tao has long been severed. This person is the same as me, we are both temporarily comprehending the divine ability. Although he was even more cautious, Zhu Yi, who already knew about the primordial shadow body, was not afraid at all. He exhaled and the figure formed from starlight let out a long, silent roar. Although there was no sound, the surrounding starlight seemed to tremble at the same time. In the next moment, Zhu Yi activated the figure formed from starlight. His body swayed on the spot and actually split into many figures. They kept flashing in the void, and thousands of fist shadows hit the shadow clones together. This was not because he also had thousands of clones, but because he used the explosive power of a powerful martial arts practitioner to continuously sprint and punch over a short distance, faster than lightning. Although it was not as fast as Yuan Xian's lightning-fast speed, the original owner of the Divine Soul mark on the opponent's Divine Soul was Tao Master Yuing, and not the primordial Dark Emperor. In the face of Zhu Yi's thunderstorm-like bombardment, the opponent did not retreat even half a step. He was also extremely tough, forcibly withstanding Zhu Yi's thousands of fist shadows, activating one Shadow Fiend Tao secret technique after another, and fighting back with Zhu Yi's attack. Many times, this person let Zhu Yi break some of the shadow clones, and also activated his own powerful technique to attack Zhu Yi. He would even use the switch between the real body and the clone to deliberately mislead Zhu Yi, hiding the real killer move in the fake flaws. In a short period of time, the two sides fought until the sky was dark. Anyone who dared to approach, whether it was the chaotic starlight or the starlight that someone's divine soul had entrusted, was affected, and did not have a good ending. They were either injured or killed. After a round of fighting, Zhu Yi and the opponent stopped at the same time, and then quickly rushed to the door at the center of the nebula. There, the person who had traveled with Zhu Yi and entrusted the Blood River Heavenly Lord had already swept away a large amount of starlight that was blocking the way, and was about to reach the center of the nebula. Zhu Yi and the man who had entrusted Tao Master Dark Shadow's starlight to them blocked the attack at the same time. The divine palm of heaven's enclosure and the giant shadow net that blotted out the sky and covered the earth fell on the starlight entwined by the Blood River. The opponent was also not easy to deal with. The surging nether blood river unfolded in the void of the universe, directly turning into 12 dark blood-colored lotus flowers, sealing Zhu Yi and the person. The shadow did not hesitate, immediately divided into 12 shadow clones, and took the initiative to hit the blood-colored lotus flowers. Zhu Yi secretly cheered. As an opponent, the opponent was a strong opponent, but if they joined forces to attack others, they would be the best helpers. The Blood River Sect's nether blood lotus naturally could not be so easily broken, but at the moment when the blood lotus swallowed the shadow clones, Zhu Yi had already released all of his martial qi, increased his speed to the extreme, passed the blockade of the 12 nether blood lotuses, and killed in front of the opponent. At the same time, another ball of starlight attacked from another direction. Its surface was emitting a golden flame, and the flame was as dazzling as a needle in the sun. In an instant it condensed into a 3-legged golden crow, which also attacked the starlight surrounded by the blood river. Chapter 770. Zhu Yi's heart skipped a beat at the sudden appearance of the golden crow formed by the true sunfire, but he quickly regained his composure. The person in front of him was obviously the starlight condensed from the divine soul imprint of a golden crow that had died in the Ying Sea. According to Zhu Yi's knowledge, before the unlucky fellow who was suppressed by his master, the golden crow race had indeed had a second-tier undying demon soul, a primordial true spirit ancestor who had died in the Ying Sea during the Middle Era. Other than the strange situation of Monk De Kong entrusting his soul to Zen Master Ji Guang, Zhu Yi speculated that the rest of the people who entered the illusion realm and entrusted their starlight to whose soul imprint they would receive was mostly random and not decided by their will. However, regardless of who the person who had entrusted the Golden Crow race's starlight was, everyone's target was clearly the same: the person who had entrusted the starlight to the Heavenly Lord Blood River. On the one hand, it was because he was the first to arrive and was the closest to the center of the galaxy. On the other hand, it was because he had entrusted his avatar to the Heavenly Lord Blood River and had reached the third-tier primordial soul realm. He had the highest cultivation level among everyone present. Under such circumstances, he was naturally attacked by the others. The person who had entrusted his avatar to the Heavenly Lord Blood River was also quite fierce. After the 12 nether blood lotuses, he released another 12 nether blood lotuses, which formed a terrifying array that surrounded the Golden Crow starlight. The 12 blood lotuses formed a ring, and the dark, sticky, tainted blood actually burned and turned into blood flames, trying to refine the Golden Crow. The Golden Crow let out a long, silent cry, and the true sun fire divine radiance on its body exploded, shattering the blood flames that approached it. The true blood river water was used to polluting all things. The only thing that could cleanse the inherent filth was the heavenly true water, which was also one of the 6 great true waters and was known as the mother of all waters. However, there were exceptions to all things in the world. Just like how the great sun glass fire did not fear the mysterious heavenly tribulation flame, there were also things that did not fear the true blood river water before they were tainted. The true sun fire, which was one of the 7 great true fires, was extremely young, righteous, and unyielding. Of course, the difference in power between the two sides could not be too great. Otherwise, too much water could extinguish the fire, and too much fire could also boil the water dry. Heavenly Lord Blood River's cultivation level was at the 3rd firmament essence soul realm. If he did not activate his Tao integration Tao fruit, it would not be easy for him to destroy the true sun fire of the Golden Crow, which was at the 2nd firmament of the indestructible demon soul realm. However, the Golden Crow had no choice but to stop in its tracks. It first gathered its strength to defend where it was to prevent being refined and polluted by the other party. The second round of 12 blood lotuses trapped the Golden Crow, and the first round of 12 blood lotuses also exploded at this time, turning into a rain of blood. It was as if countless blood lotus petals were flying in the void, enveloping the starlight that Tao Master Yuying had entrusted. The blood droplets filled the sky. Even if the dark shadow clones had thousands of them, it would still be difficult to break through this blockade. After sealing the Golden Crow and Umbra, the cluster of starlight surrounded by the blood-colored light continued to advance toward the center of the nebula. As for the approaching Zhu Yi, he did not take the initiative to attack. Instead, he used the surging river of blood to protect himself. Zhu Yi furrowed his brows. The other party knew his identity and treated him differently. It seemed that they really did treat him as one of their own. To be able to restore the magic power of the Blood River Heavenly Lord to this extent, White Light was probably unable to do it. Then it could only be the people on Xiao Yan's side. Yang Qing's cultivation was still low, so he might not be able to do it. Xiao Zhen most likely had to stay in place to take care of the escape route, so the possibility of entering the illusion was relatively small. Then, could the person in front of him be the eldest senior brother? Zhu Yi's eyes flickered slightly. While he was thinking, the battle situation behind him suddenly changed. In the face of the Blood River True Water pouncing on him, the person who entrusted the starlight to Tao Master Yueying suddenly changed his appearance. The shadows kept shrinking and finally condensed into an ancient mirror that was as dark as ink. The surface of the mirror was also dark, without any light coming through. It was like an endless abyss, swallowing all light, spiritual qi, and other things that dared to approach it. Zhu Yi recalled the information about the Dark Emperor, and suddenly a sentence came to his mind. The three ultimate of the Dark Emperor, the original Dark Universe, the Lightless World, and the Dark Shadow Ancient Mirror, each is a powerful magic power with the ability to penetrate through heaven and earth. Together with the Yuan Dark Shadow Body, the Dark Emperor left a strong mark in the Archean era. The magic power that the person in front of him was using was one of the three ultimate of the Dark Emperor, the Dark Shadow Ancient Mirror. It was rumored that this magic could copy other people's magic power, which was very mysterious. Miao Shihao's supernatural state could reflect the opponent's magic power. As long as it was within the range of his magic power, no matter what the opponent's magic power looked like or what power it had, he could use the same magic power. However, it was limited to this temporary attack, and it was completely synchronized with the opponent's attack time. It did not mean that Miao Shihao could use this magic power in the future. On the other hand, the Dark Emperor's technique was a true copy, taking the opponent's technique as his own. It was incomparably powerful. Even though there were many restrictions, it was enough to make many people's expressions change when they talked about it. At this moment, the person who entrusted the starlight to Tao Master Yueying pointed the Dark Shadow Ancient Mirror at the blood rain that was falling on him. On the surface of the mirror that was as dark as an abyss, streaks of crimson blood shadows appeared. The next moment, the dim starlight shook violently, and a part of the Blood River True Water that filled the starry sky suddenly turned against it and turned into a blood rain, fighting against the other Blood River True Water. But even so, it still seemed weak, and it was suppressed by the Blood River True Water controlled by the incarnation of Heaven Lord of Blood River. Treasures like the true Blood River water and the true sun fire couldn't be created out of thin air even if they were refined and driven by divine abilities. Therefore, although the dim starlight had copied the Nether Blood Rain divine ability with the ancient Shadow Mirrors technique, if it wanted to return the favor, it would first have to seize the true Blood River water from the Nether Blood Rain for its own use. But in this way, it only had the Nether Blood Rain magic power, but it did not have the true Dharma power of the Blood River Trueness method, so it could only seize the Blood River True Water. The man seemed to have found the problem. The Dark Shadow Ancient Mirror suddenly turned and shone on the Golden Crow, who was also trapped by the Blood River Trueness method. On the dark mirror surface, there was a golden light. Most of the Golden Crow's energy was used to compete with the Blood River True Water, so it could not defend against the Dark Shadow Ancient Mirror. Suddenly, a large amount of true sun fire left its body, abandoned its original owner, and went to the incarnation of Tao Master Yueying. The dim starlight turned into the image of a black-robed Taoist wearing a high hat and ancient clothes. He pointed at the nether blood rain in front of him, and suddenly, a large amount of true sun fire turned into golden needle-like divine light, constantly exploding drops of blood rain. The space he was in instantly transformed into a world of sparkling gold and dark crimson colors. Although the stinky blood rain was blown up, the blood river true water did not disappear. Soon, it gathered together again and turned into a blood rain that covered the sky. However, in this short period of time, the black-robed Taoist formed from the dim starlight had already turned into a shadow, rapidly passing through the obstruction of the blood rain, continuing to chase after the crimson starlight and Zhu Yi. At this moment, the bloody starlight had reached the center of the nebula, but the gate was not open, so it could not let people pass for a while. The surging blood river true water seemed to turn into a bloody ocean, falling into the center of the nebula, pouring its own power into the gate, hoping to open it. Aside from its own power, this bloody ocean also had a huge suction force, pulling everything in the surroundings into it. The boundless sea of blood was a secret great Tao of the blood river sect. It was made from the blood essence and souls of thousands of living beings and the blood river true water. It could resist and absorb enemies' attacks and absorb them. The entire sea of blood was like a bottomless abyss, greedily devouring everything that entered it and refining it. It was like an ancient hungry beast. Seeing the sea of blood spread and cover the center of the nebula, the golden crow let out a heaven-shaking cry. Although the black-robed Taoist had obtained some true sunfire, its aura had increased greatly. Previously, it had been hiding its strength, wanting Zhu Yi and the black-robed Taoist to fight the bloody starlight first. At this moment, it used its true power, and the vast true sunfire around the golden crow exploded. Then, it gathered together and instantly turned into a golden sun. At the cost of sacrificing part of its true sunfire, the golden sun forcefully broke through the surrounding crimson flames. It turned into a golden ray of light and charged into the sea of blood. However, be it the golden sun, the black-robed Taoist, or Zhu Yi, none of them dared to charge into the boundless sea of blood. That would be akin to sending sheep into a tiger's mouth and becoming firewood for the other party. The boundless sea of blood was wary of the golden crow and the black-robed Taoist, but it was not hostile to Zhu Yi. Not only did it not seem to be worried about Zhu Yi, but it also wanted to let Zhu Yi delay the golden crow and the black-robed Taoist so that it could buy time for itself. Zhu Yi's gaze shifted between the golden crow, the black-robed Taoist, and the boundless sea of blood. They did not know each other. Even if they worked together or were enemies, it was difficult to tell whether they were friend or foe. As someone approached the core hub of the illusory universe, the entire Ingzhou immortal mountain gradually changed. Endless colorful light illuminated the world, almost dispersing all the white smoke in the vicinity and illuminating the azure sea below. In the sky above the immortal mountain, as the light fog churned, a huge illusory projection vaguely appeared. It was the scene in the Ingzhou Immortal Mountain's core illusory realm. While Lin Feng, Liang Pan, Stonefeather, and the others were wary of each other, they also looked at the illusory realm. Although they were not personally experiencing it, with Lin Feng and the others' knowledge, they gradually understood the operating principle of the illusory realm after watching for a while. Looking at the people fighting in a mess, Lin Feng raised his brows slightly. Why? You can't communicate with each other in the illusory realm? You can't talk, communicate with your divine senses, or use your dermic powers to send voice transmissions. Could it be that you can't even use your dermic powers to leave a message to indicate your identity? Oh, from the looks of it, in order to fuse with the starlight body, I have to minimize the actions of revealing my existence. The closer my soul is to a piece of white paper, the easier it is to control the body manifested by starlight? The corners of Lin Feng's mouth curled up. Interesting, interesting. Can this also be considered as separated by a layer? No, separated by 2 layers of starlight? Who knows if the other party is a human or a dog, a man or a woman? Just as he was secretly laughing in his heart, Lin Feng suddenly had a thought. He received a message from the Iron Tree clone that was tracking the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King. TSK, as expected, he's up to something. Chapter 771. Lin Feng controlled the Iron Tree avatar to track the Crimson Thunder Dragon King while maintaining a certain distance. He was not afraid of the Dragon King, but it was not easy for the Iron Tree avatar, which was currently in the late Yuanying stage, to avoid the perception of a demon race great sage. Of course, Lin Feng could also openly follow behind the Crimson Thunder Dragon King, which was equivalent to a wolf driving a flock of sheep to escape and migrate. However, when the Crimson Thunder Dragon King left, Lin Feng vaguely felt that there was something wrong with his emotions, so Lin Feng wanted to see what this old dragon was planning. Stonefeather and Liang Pan were also interested in this. They had inherited the legacies of the First Emperor and the Grand Emperor respectively, so they naturally inherited the hatred between the 2 human emperors and the dragon race. Although time had passed and the world had changed, as long as the immortal Dragon City and the Grand Emperor Palace still existed and were as glorious as before, it would undoubtedly tear the dragon race's already healed wounds again. Both Stonefeather and Liang Pan attached a trace of divine sense to Lin Feng's Iron Tree avatar and followed Lin Feng to track the Crimson Thunder Dragon King. Lin Feng did not reject this. This was a continuation of the current delicate balance between the 3 parties. Whether it was Lin Feng, Stonefeather, or Liang Pan, they all maintained a tacit understanding. The Iron Tree avatar secretly followed behind the Crimson Thunder Dragon King. After flying for tens of thousands of miles, the Crimson Thunder Dragon King gave a few instructions to his subordinates, and the Brontosaurus left together, leaving the Crimson Thunder Dragon King alone. The old Brontosaurus revealed his true form and hovered silently above the Yinghai Sea, as if he was patiently waiting for something. After a period of time, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared in the depths of the sea, following which it floated to the surface. It was a sea dragon king whose entire body was azure blue and its body was close to 3,000 feet long. Its boundless demonic power was not inferior to the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King. In the vast blue waves, this sea dragon king's demonic power was so vast that it even surpassed that of the Crimson Thunder Dragon King, who was a Brontosaurus. "Qi-Ting, did you really find Yingzhou Immortal Mountain?" asked the Azure Sea Dragon. The Crimson Thunder Dragon King snorted. "We did find them, but on the human side, Zhou Emperor Liang Pan brought the Grand Imperial Palace, Qin Emperor Stonefeather brought the Immortal Dragon City, and the Mystic Gate Master Lin Feng brought the Jade Capital Mountain." Hearing the names of the Grand Imperial Palace and the Immortal Dragon City, the demonic aura around the Sea Dragon King shook violently. The surrounding seawater instantly rose like a terrifying tsunami. However, after hearing the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King's words, the Sea Dragon King fell into silence. 2 great creation treasures in addition to Lin Feng, who had already proven that he could resist creation treasures. With such a lineup, let alone him and the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King, even the Purple Sea Dragon King could only take a detour. All the dragon experts in the Xianmen Sea had come out to face the joint attack of Xianmen Tianzong, the Great Zhou Dynasty, and the Great Qin Dynasty at the same time. The Scarlet Thunder Dragon King asked solemnly, "Meteor Waves, where is Dragon King Lu Yen now?" This Sea Dragon King was the Meteor Waves Dragon King that Xiao Yan and the others had met previously. Hearing the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King's question, he shook his head. "It's useless. Even if Dragon King Lu Yen comes, she won't be able to do anything alone." Dragon King Lu Yen was an expert of the fire dragon race. She was a 3rd-tier indestructible monster soul realm great demon beast with the astral soul as one. She specially came out of the Xianmen Sea to try her luck in the Ying Ocean. She was the strongest expert of the dragon race. The Ing Ocean is located in the Divine Land. Although it is very close to the realm passageway to Infinite Wilderness Continent, the human race has the geographical advantage after all. Most of the experts that came to the Ing Ocean are from the human race. Meteor Waves Dragon King said, Xianmen Tianzong, the Great Qin, and the Great Zhou might have conflicts or fight to the death for the Ing Ocean Immortal Mountain. However, as long as we get close, the three of them will definitely join forces and expel us first. If there are only two of them, we might be roped in by them if we join them and help them deal with each other. However, with the three clans confronting each other, we have no place to stand. At this point, Meteor Waves Dragon King sighed gloomily. At the end of the day, we still have too few experts that came to the Ing Ocean this time. Even if any of the three clans join forces with us, we won't be able to defeat the other two clans. Our chips are too small, so we will naturally be the first to be chased out. If the clan leader and the rest were here, the situation would naturally be different. Crimson Thunder Dragon King's voice exploded in the air like thunder. There's no use complaining about this now. Since we can't get the Ing Ocean Immortal Mountain, we might as well go our separate ways. Meteor Waves Dragon King immediately understood what he meant. You mean to trigger the illusory sea bewilderment tide? Crimson Thunder Dragon King said, naturally. I know that you have the dragon scale of your sea dragon race's old ancestor. Every time the three mountains of the Ing Ocean appeared and continued appearing for a period of time, a monstrous tide would rise in the Ing Ocean and cover the entire Ing Ocean. All the illusions in the ocean would erupt and fuse together. It was abnormally terrifying. This tide was the illusory sea bewilderment tide. When the illusory sea bewilderment tide was activated, Penglai, Yingzhou, and Fangzhong mountains would disappear once again, and it would be hard to find them, waiting for the next opportunity to appear. This terrifying tide was the effect of the power will of the entire Ing Ocean. Before the tide arrived, the cultivators in the Ing Ocean would try to leave the Ing Ocean and return to the Divine Land in advance. Otherwise, when the tide arrived, it would be much more dangerous than usual. A considerable number of Essence Soul Almighty figures that died in the Ing Ocean actually died because they couldn't escape in time. In the past, the Sea Dragon race once had a Dragon King of the Undying Demon Soul realm who entered the Ing Ocean. Although he didn't manage to obtain the three mountains of the Ing Ocean, he didn't come out empty-handed. With the help of his race's talent, not only did the Sea Dragon King successfully escape from the illusory sea bewilderment tide, but he also figured out some of the mysteries of the illusory sea bewilderment tide due to his personal experience. He came up with a secret technique that could create a small-scale illusory sea bewilderment tide within a limited range in the Ing Ocean. However, there were many difficulties in using this secret technique. For example, one had to be near one of the three mountains of the Ing Ocean, and use the connection between the Immortal Mountain and the Ing Ocean to activate it. Generally speaking, it was a very rare opportunity to find the exact location of an Immortal Mountain. One would definitely try their best to obtain it and keep it for themselves. Once this regional illusory sea bewilderment tide was successfully activated, it would only cause the Immortal Mountain to disappear into the Ing Ocean in advance. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would do such a completely immoral thing that harmed others without benefiting themselves. However, to the Crimson Thunder Dragon King and Meteorite Waves Dragon King, they didn't have any psychological burden doing it. Even if the three clans fought, the chances of them benefiting from it were too slim. Since that was the case, they might as well give up on the idea. Especially when they thought that the Immortal Mountain might fall into the hands of the Great Zhou dynasty or the Great Qin dynasty, the two old dragons made up their minds. Meteorite Waves Dragon King immediately opened his mouth and spat out a dragon scale that was as clear as a water droplet. It didn't seem big, but it contained extremely rich water-type demonic power. Once it expanded, it would become a vast ocean. The scales all over meteorite waves. Dragon King's body lit up with blue light. Ancient runes lit up one after another and fused into the dragon's scale that was shaped like a water droplet. While the Crimson Thunder Dragon King guarded the surroundings for him, his own body lit up with runes that were formed from lightning. As time passed, the dragon's scale that was shaped like a water droplet gradually changed. It kept expanding like a huge water bubble. Under meteorite waves' Dragon King's control, the huge water bubble sank into the sea and floated silently. Under the control of meteorite waves' Dragon King, the huge water bubble fell into the sea. It sank into the sea and floated silently. As the ancient incantation was chanted, meteorite waves' Dragon King took out 24 tokens carved from azure crystals. These 24 tokens were then neatly distributed around the water bubble. Next, the old sea dragon cut open the scale on one of his dragon claws. A large amount of dragon blood fell into the sea and was absorbed by the 24 tokens. Then, bright pillars of light shot into the sky and formed a formation that protected the water bubble in the center. Meteorite waves' Dragon King looked up at the sky and then down at the sea. He said in a deep voice, "The timing isn't right. There's a very short period of time after 45 minutes. We can only activate the secret technique during that period." "It's fine. We'll wait 45 minutes. If the humans can take Ingzhou Immortal Mountain in 45 minutes, then there's nothing we can do," the Crimson Thunder Dragon King said. "The key is that we have to nourish the tokens with blood during this 45 minutes. I can't let you bear this alone. Apart from being on guard, I'll also help you. You have to save enough energy. When the time is up, activate the secret technique officially and succeed in one go." As the Crimson Thunder Dragon King spoke, his expression suddenly changed. Oh no! Meteorite Waves' Dragon King was distracted by the secret technique and was slightly slower. However, he quickly noticed something. Looking carefully, a void crack suddenly appeared in the distant sky. Purple gas filled the air, and a bronze-skinned youth in purple clothes appeared. "It's a clone of the Mystic Gate Master. Although it's only a late-stage Yuanian cultivation, its combat power is not inferior to a human essence soul cultivator. It also has more than one artifact." The Crimson Thunder Dragon King was afraid that Meteorite Waves' Dragon King did not know the severity of the situation. He immediately transmitted a message. "We're not afraid since it's 2 against 1, but we can't maintain the secret technique ceremony." Meteorite Waves' Dragon King pursed his lips. Before coming to Ingzhou Immortal Sea, he might have underestimated the enemy. However, now that he knew it was Lin Feng's clone, he would not underestimate it even if it was a late-stage Yuanian cultivation. He had personally witnessed Xiao Yan killing Marquis Jinghuan. If the disciple was like this, then the master would not be underestimated. Even if it was a clone. Although they felt that it was a pity, the Crimson Thunder Dragon King and Meteorite Waves' Dragon King knew that it was impossible to continue the secret technique ceremony. Meteorite Waves' Dragon King opened his mouth and was about to retrieve the bubbles and tokens in the sea. However, when Lin Feng saw this from afar, he smiled slightly. He raised his right palm like a blade and gently slashed down in the air. The bubbles and tokens in the sea shook at the same time. They still maintained their original formation, but Meteorite Waves' Dragon King did not retrieve them. At this moment, the sky in another direction shook again. Lin Feng's eyes also flashed slightly. Then, he saw the void in the sky break open, and a person slowly walked out of the spatial crack. Chapter 772. Just as Lin Feng used the Heavenly World Barrier's Dharma spell to stop Meteor Waves' Dragon King from taking the opportunity to escape with the water bubble and the token, a crack appeared in the sky on the other side, and a person walked out unhurriedly. It was an old man dressed in a sky-green robe. He had white hair and a ruddy complexion. Although his hair and beard were all white, His skin was as tender as a baby's, without a single wrinkle. The white-haired old man's Dharma power undulated like a vast ocean. Although he arrived by breaking through the void, he seemed to be a world of his own. While he was incompatible with the surrounding space, he seemed to be perfectly integrated, forming a contradictory feeling. When the old man opened and closed his eyes, a vast starry sky could be vaguely seen. The heavenly world rotated in his pupils, revealing a mysterious and profound great Tao concept. Lin Feng frowned slightly. After sizing up the white-haired old man, he said indifferently, "Xiao Dongtian?" Although it was a question, his tone was flat, as if he was stating an obvious fact. The white-haired old man smiled. "Greetings, Mystic Gate Master. I'm Xiao Dongtian." Xiao Dongtian, the Essence Soul expert who founded Eastern Heaven Gate and the sect master of Eastern Heaven Gate, was also Xiao Qingqing's father and Xiao Huayang's maternal grandfather. According to Yin Sangchen, this old man had just broken out of seclusion after a long period of seclusion and achieved the Essence Soul integration realm. At Lin Feng's current level, this piece of information could be ranked in the top 3 among the many pieces of information that Yin Sangchen had given him. Xiao Dongtian could successfully achieve the Void Return Realm and Tao Integration Realm. This meant that the Eastern Heaven Gate had a considerable number of Heavenly Gates manuals, even if they were incomplete. Even if they were incomplete in the past, Xiao Dongtian must have gained a lot before he went into seclusion this time, which allowed him to break through the bottleneck and achieve the Tao fruit. From this, it could be seen that if they allowed it to develop naturally, Eastern Heaven Gate would enter a period of rapid development. However, to Lin Feng, what he was most interested in was whether Xiao Dongtian had obtained the complete foundation of the Gate of Heaven, the Great Heaven Tao. His daughter had been defeated by Lin Feng's disciple, Zhu Yi, and even the Yang Sky Lantern had been taken away. His personal disciple, Yin Sangchen, had also been captured, and the Serene Sky Robe had also been taken away. Eastern Heavenly Gate and Xianmen Tianzong had previously formed quite a grudge. However, Xiao Dongtian wasn't in a hurry to settle the score with Lin Feng. There wasn't a trace of anger on his face either. After he appeared, he greeted Lin Feng and reached out to grab Crimson Thunder Dragon King and Falling Waves Dragon King. The Meteorite Wave Dragon King and the Crimson Thunder Dragon King couldn't care less about the bubble and the token anymore. They fled in all directions. However, Xiao Dongtian's palm covered the entire sea as he spread his fingers. No matter how fast the Meteorite Wave Dragon King and the Crimson Thunder Dragon King were, they couldn't escape from Xiao Dongtian's palm. It looked ordinary, but it was the Heavenly Gate's secret mystique, the Hand of Heaven. The Meteorite Wave Dragon King sank into the sea and used the Sea Dragon race's innate mystique to activate the boundless seawater to resist Xiao Dongtian's capture. However, there seemed to be a wheel of light spinning in Xiao Dongtian's palm. As the wheel of light spun, it sucked up all the seawater and grabbed Meteorite Wave Dragon King. Although the Meteorite Wave Dragon King was a member of the dragon race, he was only at the first tier of the Undying Demon Soul realm. He was powerless against Xiao Dongtian, who was at the third tier of the Primordial Soul realm. However, on the other side, Lin Feng suddenly made a move. The universal barrier transformed into the universal capturing hand and grabbed at the Crimson Thunder Dragon King. Xiao Dongtian's white eyebrows twitched slightly as a faint smile appeared on his face. He knew his own limitations. He had just stepped into the third-tier Primordial Soul realm and was still inferior to Kuang Heng and Xianlin Taoist from the Taishu Temple. Lin Feng was stronger than Kuang Heng and Xianlin Taoist. In a head-on clash, he was most likely not a match for Lin Feng. However, that was referring to Lin Feng's main body and not this late-stage Yuanying avatar in front of him. Xiao Dongtian admitted that Lin Feng's Metal Tree avatar was extraordinary. Even a first-tier Primordial Soul realm expert might not be a match for it. However, for a third-tier primordial soul realm expert like him, it was not enough. Perhaps it would not be as easy to deal with as the meteorite wave Dragon King, and would require more effort, but the outcome would be the same. If Lin Feng wanted to humiliate himself, he did not mind fulfilling his wish. Xiao Dongtian captured meteorite wave Dragon King with one hand and used the green netherworld small world mantra. He used his dermic powers to create a small world and suppressed meteorite wave Dragon King inside. At the same time, he used his other hand to grab the Crimson Thunder Dragon King. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as mystical talismans shot out from his eyes. Each talisman was a mixture of black and white. As the talismans spun, they gathered together to form an extremely dim dot of light that was like a speck of dust. Xiao Dongtian's pupils constricted. This thing is not produced by this avatar of his. It is condensed from his main body's dermic Tao and divine power. It is not a divine power Dharma body, nor is it a Dharma artifact, Dharma treasure, or talisman. However, it has condensed into a physical body that can last for a long time. Xiao Dongtian saw through many things with a glance, but he was even more suspicious. I have never seen him use this Dharma spell. Xiao Dongtian's palm that was grabbing at the Crimson Thunder Dragon King was as vast as the sky. On the other hand, the dot of light condensed from the talismans that Lin Feng released was as small as a speck of dust. It was at the opposite extreme of Xiao Dongtian's palm. When the big and small collided, Lin Feng's speck of dust suddenly exploded with a shocking light. Endless light talismans spread out and filled the space within a radius of thousands of miles, turning the sky above the sanctuary sea into a sea of light that was a mixture of black and white. A powerful force blocked Xiao Dongtian's palm and then quickly retracted, wrapping around the Crimson Thunder Dragon King. The Crimson Thunder Dragon King turned back into a speck of dust and returned to Lin Feng's palm. Lin Feng looked at Xiao Dongtian silently. Sect Master Xiao, thanks for letting me win. Xiao Dongtian looked deeply at Lin Feng and chuckled. Sect Master Lin, you have great cultivation. This old man is impressed. If Lin Feng only had this speck of dust, Xiao Dongtian wouldn't be too concerned. Other than this speck of dust that came from Lin Feng's main body, he didn't care about the other techniques of the Iron Tree clone. This time, he was caught off guard by the speck of dust. He wouldn't be so careless next time. However, firstly, Lin Feng's techniques were mysterious. Xiao Dongtian wasn't interested in becoming cannon fodder for others without knowing his background. Secondly, he had come here to help Emperor Liang Pan of Zhou take Yingzhou's immortal mountain. Everything else could wait. To Xiao Dongtian, he was very clear about when he should do what was important and what was urgent. Therefore, after his attack was blocked by Lin Feng, Xiao Dongtian didn't move anymore. He just held the Falling Waves Dragon King. Be it Lin Feng or Xiao Dongtian, they both tacitly didn't destroy the formation that the two dragon race had set up in the sea. Silently, the water bubble and the 24 azure tokens were still in the sea. Xiao Dongtian calmly activated the small world formed by the Green Hell Small World spell in his hand. He controlled the Falling Waves Dragon King and continued to provide dragon blood to the sea for the token to absorb. Under his suppression, the Falling Waves Dragon King had no choice but to let the other party extract his blood. Lin Feng and Xiao Dongtian stood at the two ends of the formation that had 24 light pillars. They looked at the formation below calmly. In the sky above Yingzhou Immortal Mountain, Lin Feng's main body, Emperor Qin Shiyu, and Emperor Zhou Liangpan were staring at Yingzhou Immortal Mountain as if nothing had happened. It was as if nothing had happened on the dragon race's side. At the moment, the battle in the starry sky illusion of the Immortal Mountain was getting more intense and chaotic. Zhu Yi's eyes flickered slightly. He silently glanced at the blood sea behind him. The starlight condensed by Hao Yang's Tao Master imprint turned into a human figure. As the acupoints all over his body opened and closed, Raal stars seemed to rise from them one after another. Standing above the boundless blood sea, the starlight giant swung his fists and tore the starry sky apart. It was as if a giant dragon had appeared and roared at the sky. The hornwood dragon of the 28 constellations' divine fist directly smashed one of the starlight doppelgangers of Tao Master Yueying. At the same time, he stepped into the void and stood firmly on the ground, as if he had taken root in the empty universe. Even wind and thunder could not move him. It was the D-Earth raccoon. The other leg of the Kong golden dragon flew up and kicked the golden crow that was also pouncing on the boundless blood sea. The hornwood dragon was also known as the hornwood dragon. It was the first of the 7 constellations of the azure dragon of the east. The 2 stars were like the 2 horns of the azure dragon. The dragon horns were the most ferocious and fierce. The D-Earth dragon was also known as the D-Earth raccoon. It was the 3rd constellation of the azure dragon of the east. The D-Earth dragon was the root. Like a tree with roots, it could hold up the sky and take deep root. It was as immovable as a mountain and could hold up the sky and calm the sea. The Kong dragon was also known as the Kong golden dragon. It was the 2nd constellation of the azure dragon of the east. It was the neck of the azure dragon. The dragon's neck was guarded by the dragon horns. It moved the whole body like a divine dragon swinging its head. The 3 extremely fierce martial arts forced the shadow and the golden crow to stop. They had to deal with Zhu Yi's attack first and then try to get close to the boundless blood sea. The golden crow roared and the true sun fire burst out from its body. It turned into a rainstorm-like golden light of the true sun fire and shot toward Zhu Yi. If each of the needles of the true sun fire hit its target, it could instantly blast a big hole in Zhu Yi's starlight body. Zhu Yi did not stop punching. He combined the 3 moves of the Jiao Fire Monkey, Jiao Water Ape, and Jiao Wood Dragon into one. He pressed his hands together and squeezed them. The vast starry sky in front of him seemed to be frozen, just in time to clamp down the true sun fire. The fire kept jumping, but it could not move. It was also known as the Black Fire Monkey. It was the 6th of the 7 mansions of the White Tiger of the West. Residing in the mouth of the White Tiger was a symbol of good fortune. Therefore, the Black Mansions were blessed with good fortune. It was a wonderful defensive move of the 28 Mansions' Star Divine Fist. The Jiao Fire was also known as the Jiao Water Ape. It was the 1st constellation of the 7 constellations of the Vermilion Bird of the South. Its combination of stars was shaped like a net. The Jiao Wood Dragon's fist was also like a net or a bottomless ocean, trapping all enemies who fell into the net. The Jiao Water was also known as the Jiao Water Ape. It was the last constellation of the 7 constellations of the White Tiger of the West. It lived in the chest of the White Tiger. Although it was the last of the 7 constellations, it was the most vital part of the White Tiger. Therefore, it could turn misfortune into fortune. In the 28 constellations' Star Divine Fist, it was a killing move that could turn defeat into victory. Zhu Yi increased his strength. The violent power squeezed the center of his palms together, directly turning the large mass of true sun fire and the space it was in into nothingness. The boundless blood sea behind him was also speeding up the refining of the portal at the center of the nebula. Under the strong infusion of power, the portal finally showed signs of opening. At the same time, the starlight formed by the divine soul mark of Tao Master Dark Shadow kept flashing. Its spiritual power and aura rose rapidly, climbing to the peak. Obviously, it was going to make a full blow. Zhu Yi raised his right palm, and the majestic fist intent condensed into a substance, turning into a seemingly illusory and real illusion, with countless shining stars. 3 Enclosures Magic Palm, Heaven Enclosures Magic Palm. Chapter 773. Zhu Yi once again activated the divine palm of Heaven's enclosure. Just the terrifying explosive power contained within the palm was enough to cause the surrounding void to collapse. At the next moment, everyone in the illusory universe suddenly felt that the stars in the universe seemed to have dimmed for a moment. The stars were shining brightly. Correspondingly, the acupoints of the giant formed by Zhu Yi's starlight opened and closed at the same time, as if he was communicating with the endless galaxies in the universe at this moment. Countless stars were being created, operating, and destroyed, showing the most primitive truth of the universe between heaven and earth. The universe changed, and the stars moved. Everything had to go through the process of nurturing, creation, growth, aging, and finally destruction. Even the stars in the sky, which had the longest lifespan and existed eternally in the world, couldn't avoid it. In the process of the stars operating and the galaxies moving, they pointed to destruction, to the final destination of the universe. The body formed by Zhu Yi's divine soul suddenly moved, and he immediately took 3 steps. After the first step, his body swayed, as if he had turned into countless lights and shadows at the same time, like thousands of stars shining together. After the second step, he turned into 28 figures, and each of them launched a punch of the 28 constellation star divine fist, and then shouted in unison. At the last step, all the lights and shadows disappeared, as if they had never been there. Only Zhu Yi was left. The yang energy in his blood was boiling violently, as if many stars were exploding at the same time. Astro Sovereign's killer move, Star Shift. As Zhu Yi took 3 steps, his body formed by starlight exploded to the extreme, as if he could smash the stars with a casual punch. From the soles of his feet, to his legs, to his waist, all the way up along his spine, all the way to the top of his head, his whole body shook violently, as if the stars in the universe were shaking. After 3 steps, Zhu Yi's figure directly disappeared in the starry sky. When he reappeared, he had changed his position, but he was not attacking the golden crow or the shadow, but coming to the front of the boundless blood sea. At that moment, the boundless sea of blood was at a critical moment of refining the nebula's central door. Although it had the strength of a third-tier essence soul at the Tao integration realm, it was distracted. Faced with the powerful explosive force of star-shifting constellations shifting, a crack instantly appeared in the churning sea of blood. Zhu Yi raised his right palm and continued to attack the boundless blood sea with the heaven's boundary divine palm, which had been ready for a long time. Knowing my identity, given eldest senior brother's personality, even if it's just a starlight condensed from the soul imprint of a first-tier essence soul cultivator, or even a starlight with a Yuanian cultivation base, he would not hesitate to take on the responsibility of stopping the enemy and let me refine the door in the center of the nebula. Zhu Yi stared silently at the boundless sea of blood in front of him. His gaze was calm. Furthermore, you entrusted yourself to Heavenly Lord Blood River, who is at the 3rd-tier primordial soul realm. Although I'm not sure who eldest senior brother is, I'm sure that you're definitely not him. Since that wasn't the case, what else was there to say? You're the one I'm going to hit. You want me to stop the enemy and buy time for you, but I also want you to refine the door in the center of the nebula. In the case that he could not use his own divine sense, if he wanted to defeat the opponent who entrusted himself to Heavenly Lord Blood River, Zhu Yi also needed the opponent to focus most of his energy on refining the door in order to have a higher chance of winning. Almost at the same time as Zhu Yi made his move, the starlight condensed from the soul imprint of Tao Master Yuying turned into a mass of shadows and flashed again, condensing into a pitch-black ancient mirror. The mirror light turned, but instead of shining on the people present, it shrouded a mass of starlight in the distance. It was a mass of chaotic starlight without a soul imprint. It had just flown from a distance to the center of the nebula. Around the starlight, a little milky white flame drifted and condensed into the shape of a phoenix in the universe. The milky white flame was the pure yang true fire, one of the 7 true fires like the true sun fire. This mass of starlight was condensed from the soul imprint of a phoenix great sage that had fallen in the Ying Sea. The mirror light covered the starlight of the pure yang true fire, and the surface of the ancient shadow mirror suddenly lit up with hazy white light spots. The next moment it obtained a large amount of pure yang true fire. The true sun fire, which was as dazzling as a golden needle, appeared in front of the shadow starlight. The starlight turned into a black-robed Taoist with a high crown and ancient clothes. He was expressionless, holding the true sun fire and the pure yang true fire in his hands, and suddenly put them together in the middle. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying aura came out from the black-robed Taoist. Seeing this, Zhu Yi immediately laughed. The person who entrusted the starlight formed by the soul imprint of Tao Master Yueying was Xiao Yan. Although the black-robed Taoist was expressionless, Xiao Yan sneered. He stared at the boundless blood sea in front of him and said, "Regardless of whether you and the person who cultivates the martial arts of the Astro Emperor know each other's identity, it's true that you two worked together before. You have a higher cultivation, but you rush to refine the central portal of the nebula and let your companions stop us. Second junior brother is good at scheming, but he is not a man who makes too many plans but too little decisions. He is resolute and has the courage to be the first in the world. Even if we know each other's identity, he will still fight with me to stop the enemy unless it is obviously inappropriate. If Zhen didn't come in, 5th junior brother, 6th junior brother, Jieyu, White Light, King Kuei Ox, and King of Sea Spirit Horse wouldn't be able to control the incarnation of a powerhouse in the 3rd level of primordial divinity so freely. I really don't know who you are, but I know you are definitely not 2nd junior brother. In that case, if I don't fight you first, who else should I fight?" Xiao Yan entrusted his soul to the black-robed Taoist incarnated by the starlight. His 10 fingers kept changing the incantation, and one after another, he sent the incantation into the 2 true fires that were almost out of control. However, when he tried to refine the celestial fiery lotus, Xiao Yan also felt that his soul kept shaking, and there was a feeling of dislocation between his body and the starlight. It was like 2 obviously incompatible things were forced together. Not only were they incompatible, but they were also constantly wearing each other down. I have already used the Shadow Demon Taoist's supernatural power to copy the true fire of the sun and the pure yang true fire. The incantation of the celestial fiery lotus is from me, but it is also rejected? Xiao Yan was still calm and didn't feel upset. This illusion is really troublesome. However, I don't expect to succeed in performing the celestial fiery lotus this time. Xiao Yan suddenly chuckled. When I failed to merge the true fires on Mount Yujing, I still had to be careful. Now I have no scruples at all. With a long and silent cry, the black-robed Taoist incarnated by Xiao Yan rushed toward the boundless blood sea, dragging the 2 true fires that were still colliding violently and had yet to merge. The merging failed, and I alone can't control the true fires. If it really explodes, its power isn't much weaker than the completely formed celestial fiery lotus. The boundless blood sea obviously realized this. Even though it was severely injured by Zhu Yi, it still stimulated the surging blood river true water to extinguish the raging flames that were pouncing toward it. This action of Xiao Yan allowed Zhu Yi to completely confirm his identity, as well as the others. The golden crow suddenly turned its muzzle and quickly attacked Xiao Yan. However, at this moment, Zhu Yi, who had been pushed back by the blood sea, stopped it again. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yan also laughed. "Ha, so it's 2nd junior brother. No wonder the previous fight was so enjoyable." Facing the surging blood sea, Xiao Yan directly detonated the 2 true fires that were already on the verge of losing control. Even the blood river true water, which was used to polluting everything in the world, was instantly blown into pieces in the face of such a violent explosion of flames. The shadow starlight that Xiao Yan's own spirit was also seriously damaged and became even dimmer. However, Since he was already prepared, at least it wasn't fatal. The Blood Sea was even worse off than him. In an instant, a deep pit was blasted out, and the huge amount of Blood River true water was burned and evaporated. If it wasn't for the boundless Blood Sea's powerful defense and strange devouring power, if this was a complete double fiery lotus, it would have completely destroyed the blood-red ocean. But even so, the Blood Sea was greatly weakened. Even the gate at the center of the nebula, which had almost opened a crack, showed signs of closing again. The vast Blood River true water rapidly shrunk and turned into a netherworld blood river flowing around the starlight. Zhu Yi could still withstand the previous attack, but Xiao Yan's attack directly injured him. This person was also a decisive person. He directly wanted to give up the refining of the gate at the center of the nebula. On one hand, he wanted to avoid giving Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others a gift. On the other hand, he wanted to regroup himself. But at this moment, the Buddhist chanting sounded again, and Monk Dekong finally appeared. Previously, he was seriously injured by Zhu Yi and the Blood River starlight. At this moment, he was also very weak, and his situation was even worse than the Blood River starlight. But Monk Dekong found a good opportunity. The Blood River starlight had already paved the way for him, and he was only one step away. Monk Dekong didn't hesitate and turned into a ball of golden Buddhist light, crashing into the gate at the center of the nebula. Humph! The starlight was silent, but the spirits of Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Blood River, and Golden Crow shook almost at the same time, as if they snorted coldly in unison. "Stupid Baldy, do you think you hid well? I want to use you as a sacrifice to this gate." At the next moment, the four of them turned around at the same time and bombarded violently on Monk Dekong and the nebula gate. The explosive power directly shattered the starlight that Monk Dekong had entrusted. The magic power and starlight merged into a torrent, and at the same time, it blasted the nebula gate open completely. Bright light shone from the gate, illuminating the entire illusion of the universe. Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the other two also rushed into the gate. White light flashed in front of him, and Zhu Yi felt that the starlight body that his spirit had entrusted was gradually disintegrating. But his spirit wasn't injured. As the world spun, his eyes lit up, and he actually returned to his physical body. However, before he had the time to communicate with Li Yuanfang and the others, the scene in front of him changed dramatically in just a moment after his soul returned to his body, and his entire body was teleported away without a trace. By the time Zhu Yi came back to his senses, he was the only one left. In front of him was a pitch-black tunnel that led to an unknown place. Outside Yingzhou Immortal Mountain, Lin Feng, Liang Pan, and Stone Feather were still in a confrontation. They witnessed Zhu Yi and the others crashing into the gate at the center of the nebula, and then they saw the illusion of light and shadow in front of them vanish. At the same time, the huge Yingzhou Immortal Mountain shook. The illusion of the Immortal Mountain's core has been broken. Next, it will depend on who can get the recognition of the Immortal Mountain first and refine it. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes slightly. It's covered by the entire Immortal Mountain, and I can't see it clearly. But there seems to be something incredible hidden in the mountain. What could it be? Chapter 774. Lin Feng stared at the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain below. At that moment, the layers of illusions around and inside the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain had started to dissipate. Only the nameless ancient formation that shrouded the Immortal Mountain still existed. This made Lin Feng slightly concerned. Without the concealment of the illusions, it had instead exposed the unusually close connection between the nameless ancient formation and the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. It was even tighter than what Lin Feng and the others had expected. Between the two, they had even formed a balance of mutual exchange. Although this connection was hidden, Lin Feng, Stone Feather, Liang Pan, and the rest secretly paid attention to it. Without the layers of illusions, Lin Feng and the rest could finally communicate with the people on the Immortal Mountain through voice transmission. "Master, we're fine, but everyone has been separated." Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and told Lin Feng about the situation. "After rushing into the door at the center of the nebula, my body condensed from starlight completely disintegrated. My soul returned to my body and I felt dizzy. I didn't know where I was and was separated from Jin'er fifth junior brother and the rest. Because I tried to activate the firmament flaming lotus forcefully in the illusions, my soul was slightly worn down. However, it's not a big deal." Lin Feng said, "It seems that only you and Xiaoyi, who entered the door at the center of the nebula, were teleported alone. I contacted Xiaoqing Zi and Yuan Fang just now. Although they were teleported, they didn't disperse. Xiaoyi is also safe and sound. You guys continue to explore and try to control the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain as soon as possible. I'll hold the line outside for you guys." Xiao Yin nodded. "Yes, master." After saying that, he looked at the pitch-black tunnel in front of him and immediately strode forward. Zhu Yi also continued to advance along the tunnel after ending his conversation with Lin Feng. While walking, Zhu Yi was also constantly paying attention to the surrounding movement. Sensing that the illusions that covered the Immortal Mountain had shattered and disappeared, Zhu Yi pondered, once the core illusion is broken, the other illusions have also disappeared, but it doesn't mean that they have completely collapsed. If someone could refine the Immortal Mountain, they would be able to reconstruct the core illusion realm. At that time, these shattered illusions would also be reborn. He had previously contacted Xiao Yan, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and the others through dermic voice transmission and had already understood the general situation. In his own Xianmen Tianzong, other than him and Xiao Yan, Yang Qing, White Light, and Kuei Nyo King who entered the illusion were unable to reach the door of the nebula's center. Among them, there were even people who had their bodies condensed from starlight destroyed by others. The shattering of the starlight body would not cause damage to the divine soul. Instead, the divine soul would be sent back to the physical body outside the dreamland. However, it would be impossible to enter the dreamland again. If in the illusion, not only would the starlight body be damaged, but the soul would also be damaged, and the injuries would be brought out together with it. After the core illusion realm collapsed, other than Zhu Yi and Xiao Yan, the other people's positions were also moved. At this moment, Yang Qing, Kuei Nyo King, Xiao Zhen'er and Sea Spirit Colt King were in one direction, while Li Yuanfang, White Light, and Jie Yu were in another direction. They were in two unfamiliar pitch-black tunnels. Zhu Yi did not break through the space to escape, because he could vaguely feel that the powerful pressure from Yingzhou Immortal Mountain and Yinghai itself still existed. And after the illusion realm disappeared, that huge pressure also became more obvious. Before the situation was clear, if he was too high profile, it was very likely that he would be targeted by the Immortal Mountain and Yinghai. As he was walking, Zhu Yi's eyes flashed and he stopped. He could clearly feel that on the opposite side of the dark tunnel, there was a person walking towards him from a place that was still extremely far away. Almost at the same time when Zhu Yi stopped, the person also stopped. Both of them were separated by an unknown distance, and there was only a dark tunnel between them. They could not see anything with their naked eyes, but they could clearly feel each other's existence and grasp each other's every move. After a moment of silence, Zhu Yi smiled and continued to walk forward. And after a moment of thought, the person on the opposite side also continued to walk forward, coming face to face with Zhu Yi. When the distance between them was close enough to confirm each other's identity, Zhu Yi and Zhu Yi stopped at the same time. Zhu Yi cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Princess Xingyun, I didn't expect that we would meet again so soon." Among the few people who entered the door, he, Xiao Yan, and Monk Dekong, whose specific situation was unknown, were confirmed. But the identity of the two people who entrusted Blood River Heaven Lord and Golden Crow Great Sage were still unknown. The person who came was alone without any companions, so it must be one of Blood River and Golden Crow. A smiling voice came from the opposite side. Xingyun, please forgive me for my previous offense, fellow Zhu. Soon, a woman in a yellow dress appeared in front of Zhu Yi. Her cultivation level was in the middle stage of yuanying. She smiled and bowed to Zhu Yi, but fellow Zhu is really amazing. You even used Tao Venerable Hao Yang's 3 enclosures divine palm and star shifting constellation shifting. Zhu Yi looked her up and down. It seems that the starlight incarnation that Princess Xingyun's soul has entrusted is Blood River Heaven Lord? Sure. Xingyun nodded his head, calmly replying. I couldn't hide it from fellow Zhu's eyes, but at that time Xingyun indeed had the intention of joining hands with fellow Zhu. However, when fellow Xiao Yan also arrived at the central door, I knew that our cooperation had ended. Although I didn't mean any harm, I did intentionally or unintentionally mislead fellow Zhu. Please forgive me for my offense. Zhu Yi said, we all have our own plans, so it's not like we've offended each other. But now that we've met on a narrow path, I wonder what Princess Xingyun's plan is? Sure. Xingyun smiled. If it's up to me, I think our previous cooperation can continue until the moment when the ownership of the Fairy Mountain is decided. At that time, even if I know that I'm no match for you, I'll have to ask fellow Zhu for advice. There was a distance between the two of them, but they could both sense that there was a fork in the middle of the tunnel between them. Apart from the tunnel that they were currently in, there was another tunnel that led in another direction. Sure. Xingyun smiled. When we met in the Fairy Mountain's core illusory realm, I wanted to tell you my identity immediately so that we could work together. Who knew that because of the special illusory realm, we were all deaf and mute? Now that we're face to face, we can explain everything clearly and make a decision. Zhu Yi raised his eyelids and remained calm. Oh, Princess Xingyun's words are strange. If I'm not mistaken, everyone should have made similar arrangements before entering the core illusory realm. Apart from selecting people to enter the illusory realm, they should have also arranged for people to watch over their bodies and take care of their escape routes to prevent people from suddenly appearing from behind. 2 primordial soul realm experts from the great Zhou dynasty came. One of them is the monk De Kong, and the other is Songhai Sword Sex Sword Venerable Tidehark. Since the monk De Kong entered the illusory realm, there's a 70% chance that Sword Venerable Tidehark stayed behind to watch over the monk's escape route. I think the great Qin dynasty should have done the same. Apart from you, Princess, only King Jingfang and Lord Changle entered the illusory realm, while the other person stayed behind to watch over the illusory realm. Zhu Yi placed his hands behind his back and said unhurriedly, I'm guessing that King Jingfang entered the illusory realm. Am I right? Although he was asking a question, he had no intention of waiting for Sure Xingyun to answer. Instead, he continued, the person who entered the illusory realm and imbued the starlight into a new body might not necessarily be powerful. However, judging from the appearance of the Golden Crow, it's obvious that it's a primordial soul realm expert controlling it. It's possible that the great Zhou dynasty has an extraordinary yuanying cultivator like you, Princess. However, I don't think it's possible. Therefore, the person who imbued the starlight of the Golden Crow is most likely King Jingfang of the great Qin dynasty. In that case, apart from you, Princess, and Monk De Kong, who is a little special and whose situation is unclear, there are 2 people who entered the door. One of them is my eldest senior brother, Xiao Yan, and the other is your imperial uncle, King Jingfang. Zhu Yi looked at Sure Xingyun and asked in a serious tone, Princess Xingyun, who are we going to fight against? Sure Xingyun was not annoyed at all. It was as if she already knew that Zhu Yi would answer like this. She immediately smiled and said, Didn't Brother Zhu say that there's also great Zhou dynasty's master De Kong? The illusory realm is mysterious and unpredictable, and he has many secrets. Although his starlight body was shattered by the four of us in the illusory realm and his soul was further damaged, I believe that he's not dead. Zhu Yi said calmly, even if he's not dead, he's been seriously injured twice. Even if he's a Buddhist monk at the Golden Body Tier 2, I'm more than enough to deal with him. Shi Xingyun looked at Zhu Yi and smiled. She shook her head and said, "It's because I've offended you before. No wonder you're so cautious. Actually, you don't have to be like this. It would be hypocritical of me to say that I didn't come to Yingzhou Immortal Mountain for the mountain. However, I'm well aware of my current strength. It's unlikely that I'll be able to obtain the mountain by myself. Let's take a step back. I'm hoping to obtain something from the mountain. In order to find this treasure, I'll need to borrow your treasure, the Eternal Night Devil Steel." Zhu Yi did not say anything. He quickly thought to himself, she's only at the Middle Yuanying realm, but she's able to restore the Blood River Heavenly Lord's supernatural powers to such a level. Even an ordinary essence soul cultivator might not be able to do that. She has a big secret. From what she said just now, it seems like she has some ulterior motives. She's not simply the princess of the great Qin dynasty. When we first found out that she's actually the reincarnation of a dragon soul, Master and I suspected her background. Shi Xingyun continued, "Naturally, we won't let you work for nothing. If things go smoothly, you might be able to obtain a transformation-grade treasure out of thin air." After pausing for a moment, Shi Xingyun continued, "The treasure might have suffered great damage. It might have fallen to the spirit-nurturing grade, or its origin spirit might have been destroyed, leaving behind an empty shell. I can't guarantee that. After all, I haven't seen the treasure's current state with my own eyes. Fellow Taoist, you don't have to worry that helping me find the treasure will delay my plan to obtain this Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. We can continue to explore and find a way to refine the mountain. As long as you activate the power of the Eternal Night Devil Steel, the thing I'm looking for will come to you on its own." This time, she did not hide anything. She told Zhu Yi everything. Then, she stood on the spot and waited for Zhu Yi's decision. Using the Eternal Night Devil Steel to search, could it be? Zhu Yi's heart stirred slightly. He asked, "What exactly are you looking for?" Shi Xingyun answered, "A dragon-shaped spirit monster called the Light Spirit Puppet. As far as I know, this monster is entangled with the boundless light Bodhi Heart Lamp, the elder of the great Thunderclap Monastery, Zen Master Zhi Guang, who lost it on the Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. Although Zen Master Zhi Guang achieved the Buddha's golden body with the Amitabha Buddha Sutra, the core power of the boundless light Bodhi Heart Lamp originated from the boundless light Bodhi Sutra." Chapter 775. Boundless Bodhi Lamp of Light. Zhu Yi repeated the name silently. He subconsciously thought of the boundless Bodhi lamp when he heard Shi Xingyun mention that he wanted to use the Eternal Night Devil Steel to find the treasure. The boundless Bodhi lamp of light was a Buddhist treasure from the ancient times. Its power originated from the Boundless Bodhi Sutra, which was one of the 5 Buddha Sutras. It was passed down to Zen Master Zhi Guang during the medieval era and became his personal treasure. Although Zen Master Zhi Guang used the Buddha's Amitabha Sutra to cultivate the golden body of Buddhism, he also dabbled in the Infinite Light Buddha Sutra. Controlling the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp, the man and the talisman complemented each other and could even promote each other. After receiving the Eternal Night Devil Steel from Lin Feng, Zhu Yi refined it. In order to more effectively control and unleash the effects of this magic treasure, other than comprehending the concepts within, Zhu Yi also seriously understood the past of this treasure. During the medieval era, the original owner of the Eternal Night Devil Steel, Demon Venerable Qianye from the Night Demon sect, and Zen Master Zhi Guang, an elder of the Great Thunderclap Temple, were close friends even though one belonged to the Devil Tao and the other belonged to the Righteous Tao. During the early medieval era, when the righteous Tao and the devil Tao were not so antagonistic, they often visited each other. Even their accompanying Dharma treasures, the eternal night devil steel and the immeasurable light Bodhi heart lamp, had become good friends. One light and one dark, the two Dharma treasures of the incarnation grade, had a rather good relationship with each other. It was only when the boundless Bodhi lamp of light went missing and Zen Master Zhi Guang perished in a war between the two worlds that their friendship came to an end. After Zen Master Zhi Guang passed away, Demon Venerable Qianye brought the eternal night devil steel to search for the boundless Bodhi lamp of light. Unfortunately, he did not have any clues and could only leave the matter unsettled. He did not expect that the treasure was lost on the immortal mountain in the immortal abode continent. Zhu Yi glanced at Shi Xingyun. How did she find out about this? He summoned the eternal night devil steel, and the artifact spirit transformed into the image of a black-robed middle-aged man. After listening to Zhu Yi's explanation, the artifact spirit named Eternal Night revealed a rare trace of excitement on its usually expressionless face. Yongyi was not in a hurry to reply. Silently, he sensed his surroundings and continuously expanded his spiritual power. Circles after circles of black ripples spread out. After a long while, Yongyi said in a deep voice, "The light Bodhi tree did indeed appear here. The immortal mountain's spiritual energy is too majestic, and it's disrupting my senses. I can't determine his exact location now, but he's inside this Yingzhou immortal mountain." After receiving an affirmative answer, Zhu Yi immediately nodded and said to Shi Xingyun, "Princess Xingyun, if you're sincere about cooperating with us, we'll make a move now." Shi Xingyun said, "I only want the radiant soul puppet. To me, the immortal mountain itself is naturally my primary goal, but the radiant soul puppet is the most practical goal." The two of them met at the fork in the middle of the passageway and entered the fork together. As expected, it was another pitch-black passageway. Zhu Yi turned his head to look at the yellow-dressed lady beside him. He wondered what kind of existence the radiant soul puppet was and why Shi Xingyun valued it so much. Zhu Yi had never heard of such a so-called dragon-shaped spirit monster, nor did he know if it was useful or dangerous. What interested him more was that even if it was the reincarnation of a dragon's soul, how did Shi Xingyun, who was only at the middle stage of the Yuanying realm, manage to restore the divine ability of the Blood River Heavenly Lord to such an extent in the Starry Sky illusion? According to Zhu Yi's observation, Shi Xingyun had never cultivated the Blood River True Skill or the Blood River Sex Divine Ability. Just like him and Xiao Yan, she was only practicing at the last minute. It was truly rare for her to be able to unleash the great power of the starlight condensed by the Blood River Heavenly Lord's soul imprint. Apart from not being able to unleash the core power of the Tao Integration Tao Fruit, which was the peak of the Blood River Heavenly Lord, it was similar to the resurrection of the Blood River Heavenly Lord. However, this was a normal situation. What Monk De Kong had done was almost equivalent to elevating himself to the third tier of the Golden Body Realm and manifesting the Pure Land of Victory. According to Shi Xingyun's control of the Divine Soul and her understanding of the Tao methods of heaven and earth, while controlling the starlight incarnation of the Blood River Heavenly Lord, only a cultivator who had reached the Essence Soul realm could do that. For example, King Jingfang Shi controlled the starlight incarnation of the Golden Crow Great Sage. Zhu Yi was not arrogant, but he would never belittle himself. Apart from him, Xiao Yan, and other senior brothers, there were not many people who could reach this level in the Yuanying realm. In particular, Shi Xingyun was the reincarnation of a dragon's soul. Even if she had been a great sage of the demon clan in her previous life, it would have been impossible for her to comprehend the essence of the Tao methods and divine abilities of a third-tier essence soul realm expert of the human clan so easily. To be precise, if she had used the power of her previous life, it would have been much more difficult. The strangeness of this aspect was Zhu Yi's biggest question at the moment. However, He did not say much about it. After all, everyone had their own secret. He's nearby. Yongyi, who looked like a middle-aged man in black, suddenly became spirited. He looked toward the depths of the tunnel. Zhu Yi and Shi Xingyun looked at each other and rushed forward. However, they slowed down at the same time after walking for a short distance. Yong Ye's expression suddenly darkened. It's indeed the light Bodhi, but there's someone else near him. Almost at the same time, the other party seemed to have sensed their arrival. Zhu Yi and Shi Xingyun only moved slightly before speeding up. A bright and pure light suddenly appeared in the pitch-black tunnel. When Zhu Yi and Shi Xingyun got closer, they saw an ancient lamp in front of them. There was only one wick on the lampstand. The top of the wick was not lit up by a flame, but by an extremely pure light. With just a glance, Zhu Yi felt a kind of boundless light, a profound state of great freedom realization. Zen Master Dade, who had joined Xianmen Tianzong, cultivated the complete version of the Infinite Light Buddha Sutra. Apart from the basic sutra, the Great Light Mantra, and the fighting method 3,000 times illumination, the core general principle, the Amitabha Sutra, was also complete. Under the tacit consent of Monk Dade, Zhu Yi had once studied the complete version of the Infinite Light Buddha Sutra. Although he had not formally cultivated it, his understanding of this exquisite Buddhist Dharma was not inferior to that of the direct disciples of the Great Lain Temple. In the white light illuminated by the lamp, they could vaguely see a milky white hornless dragon. It was small and looked like a ray of light. It kept swimming in the air, but its range did not go beyond the core area of the lamp. This is the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp. That milky white hornless dragon is the light soul puppet that Shi Xingyun wants. Zhu Yi looked at the middle-aged monk who was standing next to the lamp. It was Monk De Kong. At that moment, Monk De Kong seemed to be talking to the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp's treasure, the primordial spiritual light Bodhi. He was trying to refine it. Although he looked calm, his eyes were obviously dimmer than before he ascended Yingzhou Immortal Mountain. After being severely injured twice in the starry illusion, Monk De Kong's vitality was greatly damaged even though he had a strong foundation in Buddhist Dharma. He had found the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp with the help of Zen Master Zhiguang Sarira, but it was not convenient for him to refine it by force. Therefore, he could only negotiate slowly. Who knew that enemies would meet on a narrow road, and he would bump into Zhu Yi and Shi Xingyun. Although he was injured by Zhu Yi and Shi Xingyun, Monk De Kong did not feel much emotional at that moment. Even though he was injured, he still had a firm grasp of his state of mind and willpower. However, he could not help but have a bad feeling. He was afraid that there would be many twists and turns for him to refine the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp. As soon as Yong Yi saw the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp, he said, "Light Bodhi, it's been many years. I didn't expect you to be trapped in Yingzhou Immortal Mountain." An old and calm voice came from the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp. "I've embarrassed myself in front of you, my old friend." The Eternal Night Devil Steel and Zhu Yi were telepathically connected. It immediately said to the Infinite Light Bodhi Heart Lamp, "Light Bodhi, although Monk De Kong has Zen Master Zhiguang Sarira, he's a thief who deceived his master and destroyed his ancestors. You should be able to sense that he has refined Zen Master Zhiguang's Sarira." The light Bodhi fell silent. The spiritual light on the lamp's wick was shaking slightly. Because it noticed this, it did not accept Monk De Kong's refinement earlier. Monk De Kong chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice and said with a smile, "Buddha is only in the heart. With Buddha in the heart, everyone can become Buddha." Therefore, in the past, not only did Buddha not leave a Sarira golden body, he didn't even leave any clothes or statues. Although your disciples' cultivation base is low, I know that the spirit mirror is originally pure. Although the senior monks of the past have passed away, they might not have the thought of leaving their Sarira remains for the later generations to admire. It's just us juniors opening up spirit cages in our hearts to worship our ancestors and seek peace of mind. However, to our ancestors, entering the cycle of reincarnation after death is a new experience. The Sarira remains of our previous lives are already completely irrelevant. Inheriting Buddha's Dharma and guiding the people of the world is the right way to worship our ancestors, not to be restricted by these small things. Zhu Yi said faintly, Master, you have a good tongue. However, there's something I don't understand. Could it be that, in your opinion, destroying the great Thunderclap Temple is the only way to inherit Buddha's legacy? The infinite light Bodhi heart lamp's Buddha light shook violently. The light Bodhi's old voice came from within. Is this true? Yong Yi said in a deep voice, Light Bodhi, you've been trapped in Ingzhou Celestial Mountain for tens of thousands of years. However, you don't know that the boundless world outside the Divine Land is completely different. The great Thunderclap Temple was destroyed decades ago. The Dharma ending of Buddhism is inseparable from this monk Da Kong in front of you. He's a spy in the allied forces to destroy Buddhism. Light Bodhi's heart trembled violently. How is this possible? The great Thunderclap Temple has the protection of the Nirvana treasure, Mount Meru. How can it be destroyed just like that? Monk Da Kong listened to the Eternal Night Devil Tablet's accusations calmly. He did not deny it. Instead, he said calmly, Until today, I don't regret what happened in the past. The abbot and the others went astray and went against Buddha's teachings. They brought shame to the great Thunderclap Temple's reputation. You said that it was the Dharma ending of Buddhism. However, in the eyes of me and other like-minded people, it's a rebirth through calamity. He looked calmly at the infinite light Bodhi heart lamp. I believe that if Zen Master Zhiguang was still alive, he would also think the same way. Senior Light Bodhi, if you want to know the secret, why don't you leave with me first? We can talk about it later. Now that Ingzhou Celestial Mountain is about to be born, it's not convenient for me to explain. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.